Producer was Polly Hope, and we'll be back with more of the real lives behind the news headlines on From Our Own Correspondent here on the BBC World Service.
That was the BBC programme.
Magandang umaga. Good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in for Marcy Marcusa on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app, and shortly on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream as well. It is a Monday morning of weather warnings and a bunch of school closures. We'll get at that in just a few moments, but first over to our CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Heather Wells joining us now, also watching the weather. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it's a real Monday morning. Lots of snow, lots of wind. Be careful out there. Many highways. In fact, we've got a 2-page list of highway closures this morning, including some of the major highways, parts of the Trans-Canada, parts of the Yellowhead Highway 16. So we will bring you all of that information throughout the morning. We can tell you yesterday, WestJet had to cancel flights to and from Winnipeg's Richardson International because of the extreme weather. So we'll have an update on all of that coming up. As well, the Manitoba Nurses Union says overcapacity problems at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital Intensive Care Unit are not sustainable. The head of the union there, Darlene Jackson, Union for Nurses, says a spike in severe respiratory illnesses among children is taking a toll. We'll bring you that story and much more in our next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
It's Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. May McKillop is on the controls. And Nolan Kaler is our show director today. Brad Lillies is on our online video producer that will be streaming on YouTube. I'm Faith Fundal, as I mentioned, in for Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come here on the program. Russia is now marking 2 years at war against Ukraine, and in less than 2 weeks, the country is holding presidential elections that are expected to rubber stamp Vladimir Putin's continuing rule. We're going to get the latest from Maria Popova, a Russia specialist, coming up on the program. Also, we'll hear from the owner of a restaurant in Winnipeg Square about her concerns with the mayor's plans to reopen Portage and Main. That's a story, that conversation coming up after your 7 o'clock news. In our first half hour, though, you've heard of Canada Reads. Now get ready for CBC Kids Reads. Yep, we're going to hear about the book competition for young people kicking off this week. First, though, at 6:15, a sold-out show giving William Prince a warm welcome home. All the details after World Report.
Nelly Furtado is bringing the party to the 2024 Juno Awards. She's hosting Canada's biggest night of music with show-stopping performances by Maestro Fresh West, The Beaches, Charlotte Cardin, Josh Ross, Talk, Nelly Furtado herself, and many more. It's a party that you're never going to forget. Don't miss the 2024 Juno Awards, Sunday, March 24th at 8 Eastern on CBC and CBC Gem.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. A member of Israel's wartime cabinet will meet with high-ranking U.S. officials in Washington today. Minister Benny Gantz will sit down with Vice President Kamala Harris as well as other senior White House officials. The Biden administration has been pushing for a temporary ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Gantz will visit, and that is coming during a widening divide within the Israel government. The CBC's Abby Kodassan has the latest from London.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants Hamas to provide a list of surviving hostages before he agrees to a deal. A Hamas official told the BBC it's impossible without a pause in fighting. Israeli media is reporting Netanyahu is being criticized by some within his own war cabinet for laying out a possible deal breaker. Former hostage negotiator Oliver McTurna is in touch with people involved in the talks.
You do need ceasefire. You do need confidence-building measures.
McTurna says Netanyahu's goals of destroying Hamas and freeing the hostages complicate matters.
Those are incompatible because you're saying to the people who are holding the hostages, look, our goal, our aim is to see your total demise.
For family members of hostages like Eyal Calderon, there is one priority:
to bring him back alive.
In Rafah, 14 members of the Abu Ansah family will never return, killed in an Israeli airstrike. Rania lost her husband and her twin babies, Naeem and Wissam, were born just days after the war began. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than 2 million face starvation. And on Sunday, the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris publicly called on the Israeli government to allow more aid into Gaza.
And given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire.
Harris will meet with Israeli War Cabinet official Benny Gantz. He's also Netanyahu's main political rival. The Biden administration has publicly criticized Netanyahu in recent weeks, calling out the indiscriminate bombing of Gaza. Gantz's trip could widen the rift. Abby Cuevas, CBC News, London.
Haiti has declared a state of emergency after a major prison break. Tires burn in the streets of Port-au-Prince during clashes with authorities. At least 12 people died when gang members stormed the prison. About 4,000 inmates are believed to have escaped. The government is trying to restore order. An overnight curfew is now in place. Haiti has been plagued by gang violence since the assassination of the president in 2021. The armed groups control about 80% of the capital, and they are trying to oust the current leader. Nikki Haley has her first victory over Donald Trump in the Republican primaries. She has defeated him in Washington, D.C. The win is more symbolic than substantial. Trump still has a huge lead going into tomorrow's Super Tuesday vote, but it is possible he might be kicked from the race in Colorado. The Supreme Court may release its decision today on whether that state can ban Trump from the ballot over his role in the Capitol riots. Katie Simpson has more from Washington.
The January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol is at the heart of this case. A Colorado court says because Donald Trump was part of what happened that day, he participated in an insurrection, which disqualifies him from holding elected office based on a Civil War-era amendment to the Constitution. Trump appealed the ruling all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which could weigh in today, as it is scheduled to release at least one decision. A ruling would provide clarity ahead of Super Tuesday, and Colorado is one of 15 states voting tomorrow. Though the court is largely expected to side with Trump, even the liberal justices, including Elena Kagan, seemed skeptical about banning Trump from election ballots.
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
Two other states, Maine and Illinois, are trying to follow Colorado's lead, but those efforts will likely end if the Supreme Court sides with Trump. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
France is about to become the first country to enshrine abortion rights in its constitution. President Emmanuel Macron has called for a special session of both houses of parliament at the Palais de Versailles today. It is expected they will give the motion the necessary 3/5 majority. Opinion polls suggest about 85% of the French public support that reform. This rights activist says the move is important, especially in light of the U.S. overturning Roe v. Wade 2 years ago.
Ce qui s'est passé aux États-Unis a déclenché finalement la nécessité pour nous d'inscrire.
It shows women's rights will be taken away from them, she says. Nothing is a given forever. Some Catholic groups opposed to abortion are condemning today's action. They call it a defeat for women. In Central California, police say a group of masked men killed 4 people at an outdoor party. It happened in King City, south of San Diego, about 6 p.m. local time last night. Officers say they found 3 men with gunshot wounds. They were all pronounced dead on the front yard. A woman who had also been shot died on the way to hospital. Another 3 people were injured. No suspects have been found. Heavy snow and high winds are battering Northern California. A major blizzard over the weekend dumped more than 2 meters of snow. Highways are closed and tens of thousands of people are without power. Forecasters say the wild weather could ease up today. Here at home, a prairie snowstorm is also creating chaos. Saskatchewan is taking the brunt of it with dozens of flight cancellations and highway closures. Yvette Brand reports.
Saskatoon had a blanket of snow 1/2 meter deep in parts of the city by Sunday afternoon. Meteorologist Terry Lang is with Environment and Climate Change Canada.
Is anywhere between about 29 and 37 centimeters of snow. that's fallen. We do tend to get more snow in the cities because the trees and the buildings and everything like that tend to trap the snow. So when it's blowing and snowing.
All that snow forced some school closures, snarled travel, and closed parts of the Trans-Canada. 30 flights were cancelled for safety due to snow, wind, and poor visibility. James Bogus is president and CEO of the Regina Airport Authority.
Weather is still very challenging. In fact, we're anticipating a lot more of the same, although currently, as we're speaking here in the afternoon on Sunday, conditions have lightened just a touch, enough for a couple of aircraft to depart. But we still see more cancellations forecast for later today. And if the plane doesn't arrive, that means the plane won't depart the next morning.
The storm hit Saskatchewan from Saskatoon to North Battleford. In Alberta, Calgary and Edmonton also had heavy snowfall with freezing rain in Winnipeg. Even as flurries tapered by late yesterday afternoon, meteorologists warned winds are expected to blow that deep snow into even bigger drifts through today. Yvette Bren, CBC News, Vancouver.
A senior in St. John's is raising the alarm about automatic renewal subscriptions. 92-year-old Lloyd Walker says he made a purchase from an American company that unknowingly entered him into a contract. And recently, Walker found out that he couldn't get out of it. As Ariana Calland reports, the issue is prompting one organization to call for stronger consumer protection laws.
This is a copy of the invoice.
All Lloyd Walker wanted was a single coin, a gift for his great-granddaughter who turned 2.
I think right now there's about 12 coins here.
In July, Walker got a flyer in the mail from the Bradford Exchange. They were advertising a Queen's Jubilee coin for $69.99 plus shipping.
I'd say there's about $1,000 taken out of the account.
Walker wrote the company a letter in October, but the coins and withdrawals kept coming. In an email to CBC News, the Bradford Exchange says its advertising is clear. Pointing to one of its coin collections on its website, a spokesperson wrote that the ad indicates expressly that it is a collection and a subscription plan. Walker says it was not clear to him that he would be on the hook for items he didn't order himself. Laura Tamblin-Watts is CEO of CanAge, a national organization advocating for seniors.
Auto renewals are notoriously difficult to extract yourself from, and a lot of the practices that we see border on predatory.
Tamblin-Watts says her organization gets about a call per week about a variety of businesses offering automatic subscriptions.
We need much stronger consumer protections, and we need to make sure that companies are held to account.
For Walker, he says it's not about the money, it's about the principle, and a warning for others not to make the same mistake. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Nolan Killer is our studio director, May McKillop, our technician, Brad Lilly is our video producer. On the program today, Russia holds presidential elections in less than 2 weeks, and Vladimir Putin is expected to retain his power on grip. We'll discuss the challenges facing any political opposition within Russia, given the recent death of Alexei Navalny. Also ahead, you've heard of Canada Reads. Now, get ready for CBC Kids Reads. We're going to hear about the book competition for young people, and it kicks off this week. First, though, a sold-out crowd gave William Prince a warm welcome home over the weekend. We'll hear what he had to say about performing for the hometown crowd next. And if you're just waking up, the snow did come and the wind is also here. We have a whole bunch of weather warnings, which we'll get into in just a few moments' time. First, though, to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Heather Wells joining us, also following the weather. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, and we've got like lists, long lists of highways that are closed this morning. This storm is impacting all of southern Manitoba as well as parts of central Manitoba and parts of northern Manitoba. So what it is for southern Manitoba is a snowfall advisory, reduced visibility, drifting snow on highways, and you'll have all the latest for us in just moments. And you can also stay in step with this storm by heading to our website today. A Winnipeg man says Manitoba Public Insurance is refusing to cover the costs of required equipment and prescriptions for his recovery after he was nearly killed in a crash last summer. Dan Levier was struck by an alleged drunk driver while he was on his motorcycle heading to work last June. We'll hear his story in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Nolan Kaler joining us now for a look at a whole bunch of things. You have a big list of things.
Bunch of things. You know that thing where you have a deadline and you all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, I have to squeeze all of this in right now?
How do you
That's
get it
kind
all
of what
in?
this feels like with the winter weather that we have got to deal with here this morning. Goodness, where to even start? Well, let's start where Heather started with the blowing snow advisory, which is affecting much of southern Manitoba this morning, all the way up into the Lake Winnipeg area, really. So that is going to be with us throughout the majority of the day today. Here in Winnipeg, that snow will be ending this morning, but that will, as I say, blowing snow continuing into the day. The winds will shift and lighten up slightly this afternoon, looking at a high of minus 10, minus 23 with the wind chill this morning here in the downtown. Really, the winds are strongest, though, in southwestern Manitoba. Good morning to you in Brandon, currently minus 28 with the wind chill, a mix of sun and cloud. That will become sunny later on this afternoon. The winds will be dying down as well. The high for Brandon today, minus 11. Dauphin, much the same story, minus 13 currently in Dauphin, minus 25 with the wind chill, and you'll see your snow ending near noon today, but that blowing snow, as I say, causing a lot of problems up into the Parkland region. The wind chill around minus 26 for the good folks in Dauphin, and in Thompson, minus 27 with the wind chill. And that's the other part of the weather story this morning, Faith, is that we have a snowfall advisory for much of central and northern Manitoba as well, up into the Thompson area, and you can expect up to 4 centimeters of snow today and a high of minus 14, minus 29 you can expect with the wind chill this morning. So that's all the weather. Now let's go to how that's affecting life across the province this morning. We have a lot of school division closures to tell you about. Lord Selkirk School Division closed schools today. All schools in the Prairie Rose School Division are closed today. Red River Valley School Division has closed all schools, staff working from home there. Hanover School Division in Steinbach closed school to students and staff. Southwest Horizon School Division, buses and classes are canceled today there. Carberry and Neepawa and the Beautiful Plains School Division, buses are not running. All schools are closed. Schools closed in the Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, and we just got a call just before we came on the air. Borderlands School Division in the Altona area has also closed all schools. And Brandon School Division, buses will not be operating outside of the city of Brandon. They will be operating within the city, but you can expect some delays for in-city busing there as well. And looking at the highways this morning, again, you can imagine what the impact of this weather is on Manitoba highways. The number 1 highway from Saskatchewan all the way up till Austin is closed at this hour. We're also looking at Highway 5 from the Saskatchewan border down towards Highway 1 on the western side of the province. Highway 10 moving north from Brandon all the way up through Riding Mountain National Park is closed. We have Highway 16 from the Saskatchewan border that goes through Neepawa and all the way down. The basic rule of thumb, if you're in western Manitoba and you're on highways, really double check to make sure that those roads are indeed open, and use extreme caution throughout the province, as we've seen reports of blowing snow and reduced visibility throughout. If you see anything on your commute that you would like to let folks know about, they're sure going to be able to use it today. Give us a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
16 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. William Prince returned home to Winnipeg over the weekend. The award-winning Manitoba singer-songwriter brought his Stand in the Joy tour to Centennial Concert Hall Saturday night. Prince played to a sold-out crowd, not surprising, that he says was filled with familiar faces. The CBC's Gavin Axelrod caught up with him before the big show to talk about how it feels to be back in Winnipeg.
Well, Winnipeg is home, and you want to show all your friends and family what you've been learning out there. I feel that's what tonight is. It's a culmination of the whole first 2/3 of the tour, and my son and family are in the building, so it elevates you to a whole new place to shine your brightest, and it's going to feel like a bit of a victory lap, truthfully. You know, Winnipeg is so loving to me, and to be here with this crew and band that I have, I'm super lucky and just excited, feeling all the good things.
And you talked about, your son is going to be here, and I was going to ask, what does your son love about watching you perform?
He loves running around here when it's empty. He loves the green room and the snacks, and hanging out with me is the bonus, and he gets all the love in the world when he's here too, and so it's just nice to do what I do in front of him, show him a whole other world, just like my family did. It's a different scale, but it's just as special, and he sees me doing what I love, and I want him to remember that his dad did what he loved and what he was good at.
And just on the flip side, what does it mean for you to have him in the audience?
Oh, it's great. He just that added bit of joy. This is what it's all about, the Stand in the Joy tour, and I think I'm going to be most joyous knowing he's here watching tonight. This is where I want people to be taken in the show. It's so comfortable and historical. I've had a lot of special memories, both in the foyer and the main room of this place, so it's nice to be here as the headliner.
And speaking of this building, you're nominated for Juno, some awards in the States. What's it like, you talk about the memories that you have here, but now coming back as the headliner, the person that's nominated for awards, what's that like for you?
Yeah, it's a reflective time. You feel all these things are big steps forward personally, but I've always said that everything I'm accomplishing, it moves everybody forward. Everybody on my team that I care about, 6-Shooter Records, my manager Shauna DeCartier worked so hard for all of us and all of this, and mainly the First Nations population in the city and hopefully across the country. We all succeed with my success, you could say, and I'm proud to be here, a representative of the Peguis First Nation, and standing on this stage tonight, I hope inspires a lot more youth and shows them that we're from the same place and you too can accomplish these things. I want that for so many.
Yeah, I understand there's going to be a lot of people from Peguis First Nation here to show. How many are you expecting?
I hope so. Yeah, I think it'd be great. I don't know. I never know. I'll hear them for sure. They always make it known, so I'm excited.
What's that like, to know that this is a venue that's where people can come from there to be here and it's not that far away?
Well, it's quite the spectacle of this place, and I think when people you've grown up around, people I used to annoy at my high school with my guitar, singing once in a while, if it puts a smile on their face now that we're here in this beautiful room, all the better. That's what I want it to be. I want the things I do in this life to resonate with others in a joyful way, an inspiring, positive, uplifting way. So, yeah, it shows that we're from the same place, and here we are doing great things. To have your oldest friends, supporters, and family here seeing it kind of fully polished, that's a great thing. It feels really nice for them and for me.
Award-winning singer-songwriter William Prince speaking with the CBC's Gavin Axelrod. Prince performed to a sold-out Centennial Concert Hall over the weekend. Now, in case you didn't make it to the concert, here's one of the songs that was on the set list from the Juno-nominated album Stand in the Joy. This is William Prince, and Easier and Harder.
Love's a situation, manifestation, representation of what we like in someone who might go the distance, be blowing in the wind with beginning and the end, over and over again. The truth about love, it don't come all at once, it gets easier and harder all the time. And if you don't give up, when pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time. Well, the house that you built will stand for much longer. Leave your ego outside, makes the foundation stronger. If you learn to compromise, it'll spare you some hell. Honey, we just might make it in spite of ourselves. Well, the truth about love, it don't come all at once. It gets easier and harder all the time. If you don't give up, when pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. Yeah, the truth about love, it don't come all at once. It gets easier and harder all the time. And if you don't give up, when pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time.
That's William Prince with Easier and Harder. A whole bunch of school closures. We'll tell you about it still to come here in the program. First, though, you're probably familiar with Canada Reads. It's the annual literary showdown on CBC, which kicks off today. But did you know that CBC Kids also has its own version? It's now in its second year, and it's a little different from its no-holds-barred, grown-up predecessor. Janae Upshaw is joining us now, better known to viewers as Janae. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Talk more about CBC Kids Reads. How is it different from Canada Reads?
Yeah, so we're very excited. This year we actually have a half an hour special that will be airing on March 7th, the Thursday at 8:10. And you're going to see all of us hosts, myself, Tony, Gary the Unicorn, Mr. Orlando, Cotton Ball, and Mosey. And we're all going to be sharing our favorite Canadian picture books and just really celebrating our love of reading.
And so when you look at the CBC Kids lineup this week, well, what can folks expect?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of programming during this week. We've got book clubs, Abraca Alphabet, Applebots. We've got high fives that will all be book themed. We've got a really cool book song. And then CBC Kids Social will also be holding giveaways featuring the Kids Reads books.
I mean, this is going to be so much fun, and might sound like an obvious question, but why do you think CBC Kids is so important?
I think just sharing the love of reading with all of our friends and all of our watchers, and just kind of getting people excited about reading.
The book that you're championing, tell us more about it. Why did you decide to champion that book?
Yeah, so my book is actually called My Hood's Not Big Enough. It's all about a mother fox who loves her babies so much, but when she tries to carry all 8 of her babies on her back, she realizes that her hood isn't big enough. So her family offers to help as Mother Fox learns that she doesn't need to carry all of her babies on her own. So I think it's a really good message to share with our young readers. It's okay to need help, to ask for help, and to accept it.
This will also be a special with all of the hosts that determines the winner. Have you figured out how you plan to defend your book?
Yes, actually, I have. We all have some pretty unique ideas. I'll be doing a very cool craft that I'm very excited to share. But we also have singing, we've got dancing, cooking, and we also have a sea shanty from Mr. Orlando. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Certainly sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And classrooms as well are involved from right across the country, right?
Yes, they are. So you'll actually see them in the special. They'll call in, and they actually help all of us champion our books. So it's a lot of fun to kind of get them involved and have their help with trying to get our book to be the winner.
What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited to just to share our books. I think they all have very unique, different ideas in them, and to get to share that with our friends across Canada is it's really special.
Jenny, thanks very much for making time today, and take good care.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Jenny Upshaw, one of the hosts with CBC Kids. CBC Kids Reads continues every morning this week with book-themed videos, and the special, of course, to determine the winning book airs on Thursday on CBC Television, CBC Gem, and CBC Kids YouTube.
Commotion with Elamin Abdelmahmoud.
It's time to talk about Funflation.
Crime Story.
You got one witness who can't be found.
This American Life with Ira Glass.
There are signs that read, see something, say something.
Radio Lab.
What is coming up? What is going wrong, actually?
The Sunday Magazine with Pia Chattopadhyay.
How does the last 24 plus hours complicate or change things?
Telling Stories. Sunday night on CBC Radio 1 and on the Listen app.
28 minutes after 6 o'clock here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Hello as well to the folks watching on the television and those streaming on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Lots of school closures to tell you about. I'm going to list them through, so pay attention here. Lord Selkirk School Division has closed schools today, including schools in the Prairie Rose School Division as well. Red River Valley School Division also has closed schools. The Hanover School Division has also shut down schools to both students and staff. In the Southwest Horizon School Division, same thing. Buses and classes are canceled today. Buses are not running, and schools are also closed in the Beautiful Plains School Division, as well in the Rolling River School Division. Fort LaBosse School Division also has closed schools, including as well Borderland School Divisions. I know these are different places, but it's a big list here. Schools closed as well in the Seine River School Division, Prairie Spirit School Division, and Garden Valley School Division. We just got this in just a few moments ago that all Brandon School Division schools have been closed because of heavy snowfall. And all Brandon School Division bus routes are also closed. Division offices are also closed, so do take necessary precautions for your safety. We'll keep you up to date on all of the school divisions as they come in. And if you missed the big list that I just read to you, we'll provide that in our next half hour of the program as well. Lots of weather warnings also to tell you about, but we'll keep you up to date as the morning progresses. In our next half hour of the program, Russia now marking 2 years at war against Ukraine. And in less than 2 weeks, the country is holding presidential elections that are expected to rubber stamp Vladimir Putin's continuing rule. We'll get the latest from Maria Popova, a Russia specialist, after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, we've got drifting in Winnipeg. It's minus 12. All this snow will end this morning, but the blowing will continue. The wind won't ease up until later this afternoon. Our high today, minus 10. Well, a storm continues to pelt most of Manitoba this morning. A blowing snow advisory covers all of southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg. In parts of central and northern Manitoba, it's a snowfall warning. And in Churchill today, it is a near blizzard. Highways across southern Manitoba are closed, and many school divisions have also shut down. Now, heavy snow and blowing has people in Brandon working just to keep moving. The blizzard warning in Brandon now is that blowing snow advisory. Weather Centre of Manitoba owner Justin Ortel was driving around Brandon last night.
We've helped, I'd say, about 4 people and kind of pushed four vehicles and get them going again.
after they've become stuck. There was a Brandon transit bus that actually got stuck on a service road kind of on the North Hill of Brandon and almost slid into the ditch.
As well, WestJet canceled all of yesterday's domestic flights from Richardson International because of this weather. Environment Canada, though, as I mentioned, does say conditions will start to improve later today. Now, it's not just Manitoba feeling the impacts of this storm. Extreme winter weather warnings are still in effect today from Edmonton all the way east to Moose Factory, Ontario on James Bay. The warning for Edmonton includes a temperature alert, overnight and morning wind chills in the -40 range. At the same time, across central Saskatchewan and northern Ontario, snowfall and storm warnings continue today. Saskatoon among the hardest hit. As of yesterday, Saskatoon has as much as 30 centimeters of snow. Municipal officials are again advising people in that area to stay off the roads. You can stay in step with the storm. Just head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, and you can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. A Winnipeg woman says her family is paying thousands of dollars out of pocket to cover her husband's required equipment and medication after he was nearly killed in a motorcycle crash. Toby Levier says her husband needed life-saving surgery and spent more than 8 months in hospital after he was hit by an alleged drunk driver. Now home, her husband needs a power wheelchair, specialized home equipment, and prescriptions after the crash left him unable to walk for more than a short distance. Levier says Manitoba Public Insurance refuses to pay.
I feel let down. I also feel further victimized, to be honest with you. And I'm also just really in shock because we all pay our MPI premiums and we are told that we will be covered.
MPI says it has a team of independent medical professionals reviewing submitted documents. It says if a customer disagrees, they can appeal. Respiratory illnesses are pushing Manitoba's Children's Hospital to its limit. Shared Health says the ICU at Children's was almost double its capacity as of midnight Friday. And a 10-patient overflow unit had to be opened last week because inpatient units were over capacity. Darlene Jackson at the Manitoba Nurses Union says some nurses are being asked to pick up longer shifts and others are being mandated to extend their workday.
I talk to people who work 5 8-hour shifts that 4 of them have turned into 16-hour shifts. You cannot sustain that for a long period of time.
Jackson says it's challenging for nurses who still want to provide the best care possible. Experts say it's about time Manitoba adopted full-day kindergarten at all its schools. The Lower-Yale School Division says it's considering switching to a full day of school for its youngest students starting in September. Carrie McQuaig is a senior policy fellow at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. She says some other countries already have similar programs for children as young as 3.
For Canada to have an argument about whether or not it should happen when kids are 5, I think says something about us being behind the times.
Manitoba already has some full-day kindergarten. But McQuaig says Manitoba is one of the only provinces without a full-day kindergarten for all students. Well, they are the comeback Jets.
The Morrissey penalty coming. Morrissey shot. He scores.
Josh Morrissey in the third period on TSN as the Jets come from behind and beat the Sabres 5-2 in Buffalo last night. It was the second night in a row the Jets have had a strong come-from-behind win. They beat Carolina on Saturday. Jets head coach Rick Bowness says his team has no quit.
I know we're down 2-1, but we're playing really well. We were playing fast. We were creating turnovers. We were creating chances. Just stay in the fight.
The Jets now that staying in the fight has them at the top of the Central Division. And the team comes home to face the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba. I love the name Kraken.
It's such a good name.
It's the best, right?
Seattle Kraken. Sounds scary.
Strikes fear into your hearts.
Yep. All right. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
It's Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Okay, we're at just about 36 minutes after 6 o'clock. If you're just waking up, all of that snow and blowing snow is causing a lot of problems for schools. I'm going to list the school divisions that have schools closed. Lord Selkirk School Division, Prairie Rose School Division, Red River Valley School Division, the Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, Beautiful Plains School Division, Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, Borderland School Division, Seine River Division, Prairie Spirit School Division, the Garden Valley School Division, and not long ago, the Brandon School Division has advised that all schools will be closed, including bus routes. So as you heard on the news there, be prepared for not very good conditions, so the schools are all closed. I'm sure this list will continue to expand, so we'll keep you up to speed, up to date here on Information Radio. Let's not get confused. It is Monday morning. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. May McKillop is on the controls. Brad Lilly is our video producer. Nolan Kaler is our studio director and busy as well with the commute. Hello.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at Manitoba highways. So you talk about all those rural school division closures, and you can imagine that the same issues are going to hold true for all other vehicles in addition to school buses. So let's take a quick look at some of these highways that remain closed at this hour, starting off with the Trans-Canada from the Saskatchewan border all the way till Austin. So almost from Saskatchewan, almost to Portage La Prairie in the west. And then you have highways that are coming off of that are closed as well. So Highway 16 from the Trans-Canada all the way up to the Saskatchewan border as well. Highway 5 all the way up from the Roblin area all the way down to the number 1 is also closed. Highway 10 making your way north out of Brandon all the way through Riding Mountain National Park is closed. Also looking at highway number 3 in around the Carmen area, that's closed all the way down to the highway to Highway 14 just in between Winkler and Morden there. So really going to want to watch out for a lot of these western Manitoba highways. And we talked about the blowing snow that is causing a lot of those issues. Still a blowing snow advisory in effect for much of the southern part of the province today. That includes the city of Winnipeg, where we'll see snow ending a little bit later on this morning, but the blowing snow continues into this afternoon on a high of -10 today, currently -12 here in the big city. Feels like -23 though with the wind chill. We'll see skies clearing later on tonight. The overnight low falling to -30 with the wind chill, and we'll see sunny skies tomorrow with a high of -10. Over in Brandon, where the winds are blowing ever so strongly, we've got -28 with the wind chill currently. Blowing snow continuing throughout the afternoon and then diminishing slightly with a high of -11. It feels like -27 with the wind chill right now in Brandon. Clear skies later on tonight with a west wind dying down, and we'll see the wind chill fall down to -33 overnight. Let's say good morning to Thompson, currently -27 with the wind chill, and you're seeing a lot of snow up there. That's the other part of this we haven't really touched on yet, Faith, is that there is still a snowfall warning in effect for much of the northern part of the province, sort of that north central area. Thompson's sort of at the north end of that warning. So we'll see up to 4 centimeters there with strong winds out of the northeast, and the wind chill will make it feel like -29 this morning, and you'll see more snow going into this evening, the overnight low falling to -34 with the wind chill. And speaking of the wind chill, Churchill, one of the cold spots, -38 with the wind chill, and a near blizzard developing near noon today with strong winds out of the northeast, and looking at a high of -19. But the wind chill is going to hang around that -38 mark all day. So quite an eventful day weather-wise across the province. Other than that, though, we haven't heard of any issues here in the city of Winnipeg yet as it relates to traffic. If you see anything else out there on your commute, be it here in the city or out there on Manitoba highways, we'd love to hear from you on what you're seeing as it relates to conditions. Give us a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much.
You bet.
Nolan Kaler, our studio director here on the program. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Still to come, Russia is marking 2 years at war against Ukraine. And in less than 2 weeks, the country is holding presidential elections. We'll get the latest from Russia specialist Maria Popova in this half hour of the program. First, though, from the CBC National Business Desk, your business specialist, Phil Dumont, joining us now. Good morning.
Morning, Faith.
Bank of Canada will decide on interest rates this week. We were promised rate cuts this year. Care to wager? I don't want to bet with you, though, but what do you think we're going to get?
No, we're not going to get them this time around. According to Bay Street experts, the bank drops out its latest interest rate move this week, expected to be a non-event. And they're not even wondering if they're wondering whether the central bank will talk about cutting rates at all. Sometimes, Faith, in the communique, you can kind of read the wording and go, okay, they're thinking this way or that. But all this because at the January meeting, the governors expressed concern about dropping rates too soon. This has been a constant theme. The fear is that inflation hasn't dropped far enough in Canada Canada, so a cut of interest rates could reignite prices, and you're behind the 8 ball again. That despite the fact Canada's economy barely grew in the second half of 2023. The Consumer Price Index in January actually fell month to month for the first time since May 2020, and the core CPI number, at its lowest rate since November 2021. So while the reluctance to cut rates, economists at the Bank of Montreal say for the Bank of Canada, the economic signals are still mixed. Economic growth a bit stronger than anticipated. And Faith, no surprise here, because the bank had been predicting that Canada would not grow at all in the fourth quarter. Instead, our GDP expanded by 1%. So that's good for us in that sense. But for the bank governors, they look and say, well, maybe maybe the economy's stronger than we think. Also, according to the CIBC, bank probably wants to see further slack in the employment market. In other words, fewer new jobs getting created and a tick up in the unemployment rate. But I also think the bank could be gun shy. They absorbed a tidal wave of criticism in 2021, 2022, waited too long to increase interest rates to deal with rising inflation. As a result, they went up way faster than anybody expected. They don't want to repeat that mistake, so I think they're guessing they'd rather be a little too harsh on the economy rather than take their foot off the brake a little too quickly and get back into the same mess they were a couple of years ago.
That makes sense. So we'll keep asking you as we get close to each time the Bank of Canada decides. Okay, we got to talk about the prices for all of those metals going to car batteries. Apparently they're falling. Why is that a problem for Canada?
It might be pure paranoia, but there's a worry in Ottawa that the falling prices for metals that go into EV batteries could wind up helping China and hurting Canada. Here's the thinking. Last year, all the talk was about getting to mine exotic minerals that go into these renewable energy technologies, things like lithium and nickel. Well, there was a slump in the EV market last year, mainly because of fewer buyers in China. That hurt prices. More supply coming online. There were 20 new lithium mines dug in 2023. So all that resulted in lithium prices at their cheapest level in 2 years. Cobalt, lowest point in 4 years. Nickel, worst point since before the pandemic. Good for consumers, but of those critical minerals, Canada's the fourth, fifth, and sixth largest producer worldwide. Ottawa's concern is two things. One, the miners won't be able to raise enough cash to keep exploring and producing these rocks. Two, and this is the paranoid part, China continues to invest in critical minerals worldwide, especially in Africa. But Canada's home to something like 40% of the mining companies on the planet. In that environment, China could step up and buy miners on the cheap. That would increase that country's stranglehold on these key markets and kind of shut a lot of our miners out.
Phil, markets?
Right now, they're a little negative in Europe, UK off 0.5%. In Asia, the Nikkei in Japan hit an all-time high with its record up 0.5%. Oil down 55 cents, $79.42 a barrel. Canadian dollar down slightly, 73.71 cents U.S.
Have a good Monday and take good care.
Thanks, Faith.
Thanks very much. Phil Dumont from the CBC National Business Desk. 16 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. We're going to go through all of those school division closures in just a moment. First, though, as you've been hearing, Canada's unemployment rate is 5.8%. But how do we know that? Statistics Canada figures it all out by asking us about our jobs, and our answers help shape all kinds of policy like interest rates. But we do need to provide that answer. And these days, who picks up the phone? Producer Ellis Cho looks at what it means if we let that call go to voicemail.
For 10 days every month, Brandy O'Byrne works morning, noon, and night, knocking on doors in all kinds of weather.
Days where we're out in blizzards and I've been stuck and digging the car out of residential streets that haven't been plowed.
Her job? To ask Canadians about their jobs. Brandy collects data for Statistics Canada, and some of the most important information she collects is for the Labour Force Survey.
So questions are about type of work you do, whether you're looking for work, working, retired. It's all based on the labor market or things employment related.
The Labour Force Survey also tracks things like salaries. Are they going up or down? Are there more part-time jobs than full-time? And it's the official source of the unemployment rate in Canada. It's one of StatsCan's largest surveys. It tries to reach more than 55,000 households every month. But during the pandemic, home visits stopped.
So since then, it's been a period of transition.
Vincent Dale runs the labor force survey for StatsCan. He says the response rate before the pandemic was more than 85%. Today, it's at 70%.
The number of people in the population that prefer a personal visit probably has declined. There's probably a bit of a reluctance to open the door after various lockdowns that we all went through.
It is mandatory to take the survey, but they have to reach you first. And these days, that's not easy.
It used to be that there was the one landline per dwelling. So it was a relatively simple question of phoning up that one landline. Now we have to work through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cell phones that are attached to that dwelling.
The drop in response rate is concerning.
Pierre Brochu is a labor economist at the University of Ottawa. He calls Canada's labor force survey one of the best in the world. But if the response rate drops too low, that could change.
If the data is of poor quality, the conclusions we draw will not necessarily be great. And I remember one prof in my PhD said garbage in, garbage out.
And that, he says, should matter to everyone, because the labor force survey informs economic and policy decisions. It affects things like minimum wage or the Bank of Canada's decision to raise interest rates, even how much EI you get.
If we have issues about the data quality, it may not reflect the true economic situation.
If the data shows your town's economy is doing great when it's not,
then your benefits are less generous because the system thinks you live in a region that the economy is doing better than it actually is.
StatsCan knows it has a problem. It's coming up with strategies to reach more people, including doing the surveys online. Until then, there is one person ready and waiting to take the call. So, Pierre, have you ever been asked? Have you ever been part of the survey?
No. I'm dying to be asked.
For the Cost of Living, I'm Alice Cho.
Thanks very much, Ellis. And no, I have not received that phone call either. More stories about money and the economic forces that surround us. You can subscribe to the CBC's Cost of Living podcasts. Find it wherever you get your podcasts or catch the show right here on CBC Radio 1 at 11:30 tomorrow morning.
Whether it's breaking news from around the world, across the country, or in your own hometown, it's all at your fingertips on the CBC News app. Get the top stories from where you live under the local tab, or watch video clips, live events, and the national on your smartphone or tablet. Get all the news you want, when you want it, where you want it, with the CBC News app. Download the app for free today.
Coming up to 10 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, if you're just waking up, a whole bunch of school division closures to tell you about because of all of that snow and blowing snow, not very good road conditions. I'm going to list them here. Lord Selkirk School Division has closed schools, as well as the Prairie Rose School Division, Red River Valley School Division, the Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division. Beautiful Plains School Division also has buses not running and schools closed. In the Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBasse School Division, Borderland School Division, all have schools closed or has schools closed. Seine River Division as well. Prairie Spirit School Division. Schools are closed in the Garden Valley School Division, Lakeshore School Division, and Sunrise School Division. And all Brandon School Division schools are also closed because of that heavy snowfall, and the bus routes are closed, canceled, and the division offices are closed. We'll keep you up to date as the morning progresses about which school divisions are closed, but it is going to be that kind of morning, so be prepared for that. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm Faith Fundal. Russia is marking more than 2 years of war with Ukraine. Over that period of time, Russian President Vladimir Putin has increased his grip on power. Still, just last week, thousands showed up for the funeral of opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died recently in prison. Russian police made sure there weren't any large-scale protests. Maria Popova is professor in the Department of Political Science at McGill University, joining us in Montreal. Hello, Maria, again.
Morning.
Recap for us what happened. What happened at Navalny's funeral in Moscow?
So a lot of Navalny's followers showed up to bid farewell. They were throwing flowers at the funeral procession as it went by, and they walked to the cemetery to pay their final respects.
And at the funeral, the BBC reported that many chanted slogans like "No to war," "Russia without Putin," and "Russia will be free." What do you make of those messaging? That messaging?
Navalny's supporters, for sure, are anti-Putin. The people who showed up to this funeral are the bravest of them all. They knew that they're risking possibly their freedom by showing up. So it's not a surprise that they were motivated to express these feelings. I think it's important, though, for us not to extrapolate from that to think that this is a widely held sentiment in Russian society. These are the most motivated Navalny supporters that we saw.
And so, as we saw from those very motivated protesters, do you think that opposition, or what seemed like an opposition, have an impact on the presidential elections ahead in Russia in 2 weeks?
No, there's really no chance of that. Navalny was the most well-known of the Russian opposition leaders, and even he did not have full tested reach. So now that he is gone, there's really not an obvious person to take his place as any sort of focal point for protests. Chances are that the elections will go uneventfully and give Putin another term in office.
Something that made big headlines, at least here, was Vladimir Putin's State of the Union speech last week, threatening NATO countries. Tell us about that, and in particular, his nuclear threat. Why is that something that is concerning?
It really is not actually concerning because he has made these nuclear threats numerous times over the past 2 years. It's something that Russia does often anytime it launches a war. Back in the 90s, when Russia was fighting in Chechnya, they were making nuclear threats then. What is important for us to keep in mind is that the actions of the Russian army show that when defeated on the battlefield, they withdraw rationally. They do not escalate. So, in fact, there is not a lot of cause for concern. This was just a rhetorical device that, unfortunately, Putin uses quite often.
And so, as the war Putin's war in Ukraine continues, what do you make of what his aim is now? It's been almost 2 years, or just over 2 years.
Yeah, his aim remains exactly the same as on day one, which was to end Ukraine's independent statehood and to destroy the Ukrainian nation. In fact, today, former Russian President Medvedev, who is still a high-ranking Russian official, made a speech saying that Ukraine cannot exist. It doesn't exist as a state or as a nation. It is Russia. And this is what their goal continues to be, making sure that that happens through conquest.
As you look at the past 2 years since the war, how would you characterize how Russia has changed?
So Russia has sunk even deeper into domestic repression and into this imperialist conquest. It has put its economy on a war footing to try to win the Ukrainian war. But I think we have to keep in mind that Russia has lost wars before. We really should not be overestimating Russian strength. They are coming out with a lot of bravado, but they may not be able to sustain this war effort indefinitely.
It's always good to have you on the program. Thanks very much, Maria. Take good care.
Always a pleasure.
Maria Popova, professor in the Department of Political Science at McGill University. We reached her this morning in Montreal. About 4 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, a very snowy Monday morning. To our CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Heather Wells joining us now as well. Hello.
Good morning. Well, the Manitoba Nurses Union says overcapacity problems at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital intensive care unit are not sustainable. Last week, the Children's opened a 10-patient overflow unit because inpatient units were full or close to full. The union president says a spike in severe respiratory illnesses among children is taking a toll. And experts say it's about time Manitoba adopted full-day kindergarten at all its schools. Louis-Riel School Division says it is considering switching to a full day of school for its youngest students starting in September. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. May McKillop is on the controls. Brad Lillies, our video producer. Nolan Kaler, our studio director, has been very busy looking at the commute. Hello.
Very literally so. We just watched a snowplow make its way right past us here at Portage and Spence.
They're doing their thing.
Good to see them trying to make these streets passable this morning, but it is going to be a slick and slushy and just not a good morning to get around the city of Winnipeg, no matter which way you slice it. We haven't heard of any issues here in the city as far as the commute goes, but a reminder about the highways that remain closed at this hour. Highway 1 from the Saskatchewan border all the way up till Austin. We've got the Highway 5 from the Highway number 1 to the Saskatchewan border. Highway 10 all the way up from Brandon, all the way up to Highway 3 and Highway 16 from the Saskatchewan border down to the Trans-Canada Highway. So basically any highway that is major highways in western Manitoba, you can expect them to either be closed or have tricky traveling conditions across the province on highways this morning. But if you see anything else out there on your commute today, give us a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much.
You bet.
And some school closures as well. Lord Selkirk School Division, Prairie Row School Division, Red River Valley School Division, Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, Beautiful Plains School Division, Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, Borderland School Division, Seine River School Division, Prairie Spirit School Division, Garden Valley School Division, Lakeshore School Division, Sunrise School Division, Evergreen School Division, and Brandon School Division. All schools closed because of the weather. Whew. And that staff event planned today for Interlake School Division has also been canceled, in case you're wondering. We'll keep you up to date as the morning progresses. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Goodbye to the folks watching on the television. You can also find us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. We'll talk soon. World Report standing by.
Today on The Current.
I'm living with my two friends in the same room, and so actually we are living 3 people in one room.
Neighborhoods in Brampton, Ontario are seeing 25 people living in single-family houses as international students struggle to find a home. The city is cracking down on rooming houses, but needs other solutions fast. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Nikki Haley has her first victory over Donald Trump in the Republican primaries. She defeated him in Washington, D.C. The win is more symbolic than substantial. Trump has a huge lead going into tomorrow's Super Tuesday vote, but it is possible he might be kicked from the race in Colorado. The Supreme Court may release its decision today on whether that state can ban Trump from the ballot over his role in the Capitol riots. Katie Simpson has more from Washington.
The January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol is at the heart of this case. A Colorado court says because Donald Trump was part of what happened that day, he participated in an insurrection, which disqualifies him from holding elected office based on a Civil War-era amendment to the Constitution. Trump appealed the ruling all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which could weigh in today, as it is scheduled to release at least one decision. A ruling would provide clarity ahead of Super Tuesday, and Colorado is one of 15 states voting tomorrow. Though the court is largely expected to side with Trump, even the liberal justices, including Elena Kagan, seemed skeptical about banning Trump from election ballots.
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
Two other states, Maine and Illinois, are trying to follow Colorado's lead, but those efforts will likely end if the Supreme Court sides with Trump. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will host a member of Israel's wartime cabinet. Benny Gantz will sit down with senior members of the Biden administration over the next 2 days. Harris is planning to continue her push for a temporary ceasefire. She says it would allow the release of several hostages still being held by Hamas. A senior White House official says Israel has essentially agreed to a deal, but Hamas needs to, quote, come on board. Over the weekend, Kamala Harris called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, saying too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. France will become the first country to enshrine abortion rights in its constitution. President Emmanuel Macron has called a special session of Congress today, with polls suggesting most people in France approve. The motion is expected to pass. Journalist Ross Cullen has more from Paris.
It's a rarely seen mass parliamentary gathering in France, set against the splendour of the former royal palace of Versailles. More than 900 MPs and senators will gather today to vote once more for or against changing the constitution to enshrine abortion rights into the text. Based on the preliminary votes, it is very likely to pass and would be a world first. MPs in the National Assembly overwhelmingly approved the move in January, and then last week the upper house also voted for the changes. The idea of writing the right to access abortion services into the French constitution was sparked in 2022 by the US Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. Laura Slimani from the women's rights group Fondation des Femmes hopes the proposal takes root across Europe.
Je pense qu'en tout cas, ce que fait la France en inscrivant le droit à l'IVG dans sa constitution.
We're sending a message, she says, that France is not only a country of men's rights, it's also the country of women's rights. President Emmanuel Macron wants the changes to be in place by Friday. March the 8th is International Women's Day. Ross Cullen for CBC News, Paris.
Haiti has declared a state of emergency after a major prison break. Tires burn in the streets of Port-au-Prince during clashes with authorities. At least 12 people died when gang members attacked the prison. About 4,000 inmates are believed to have escaped. The government is trying to restore order. An overnight curfew is now in place. Haiti has been plagued by gang violence since the assassination of the president in 2021. The armed groups control about 80% of the capital, and they say they're trying to oust the current leader. A major winter storm is blasting Saskatchewan. Close to 30 centimeters of snow is covering Saskatoon. Travel there is difficult, with flights canceled and roads closed. Northern California is also getting some wild winter weather. As freelance reporter Steve Futterman tells us, conditions there could soon ease up.
Today, finally, there could be some relief. There will still be snow, but not as much. And at this point, any improvement is welcome.
It's been a few years since we've had this amount of snow in this little of time.
The blizzard of 2024 has caught many off guard.
Definitely weren't expecting this much snow. We're making the best of it.
It was hoped Sunday would bring some significant help from Mother Nature. It didn't happen. Blizzard warnings were extended. Interstate 80, the major highway, remained shut down for more than 100 kilometers. At one point this weekend, hundreds of vehicles, including big rigs, were trapped. Law enforcement agencies were forced to check each one.
We literally had to go one by one to start helping people out to get them off the hill.
Yesterday, crews were trying to dig out the vehicles and begin towing them away.
The strategy is just hurry up, get them out of here so we get the scrotum cleaned up, and then
hopefully by Monday they can roll on over the hill.
This tourist wanted to make a quick escape when conditions briefly improved.
We had a quick window this morning. Everything's closed again, so we're stuck.
Today, again, the forecast calls for better conditions, but it will take days to completely dig out. And another storm, not as strong, is set to hit the area later this week. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
It is a strange time for Canada's mining industry. Lots of cash is being spent looking for minerals, and at the same time, explorers are struggling to get the financing they need to keep drilling. As Aya Dufour tells us, mining executives are meeting in Toronto this week to discuss the industry's future.
It's game day at the Mining Super Bowl. More than 30,000 people from all over the world are attending the annual Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada convention. Some, like Alain Lambert, capital market advisor for exploration company Beyond Lithium, came in the hope of attracting investors after a brutal year on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
The last part of 2023 and so far in 2024 has been probably one of the most challenging environments for junior mining companies to raise money in Canada.
Junior mining companies are the ones most often finding the deposits that eventually become mines, and they depend on strong market prices to get shovels in the ground. But lately, pricing for lithium, nickel, and cobalt, the building blocks of technologies that will help combat climate change, has collapsed. Alistair Corbett, Bain & Company's global mining lead, predicts that will change as countries transition to a lower carbon economy.
Today, there isn't a shortage of those critical minerals. There will be a shortage tomorrow. Prices are going to go up.
Until that happens, companies like Beyond Lithium are going to have to make tough choices, says Lambert.
Everybody is feeling the same need to be very frugal.
As Canada's juniors wait for brighter days, the global race to secure critical mineral supply chains continues to heat up. Aya Dufour, CBC News, Toronto.
In just over a month, schools in parts of Ontario will be closed for the day. A rare full solar eclipse will darken the sky the afternoon of Monday, April the 8th. It will have the power to blind people who look at it directly. So some school boards have decided to close. They say the timing of the late afternoon solar event would make supervising children difficult or impossible. But their critics argue the stars have aligned for a perfect teaching opportunity. Stu Mills reports.
Are you serious? It's actually canceled on April 8th because of an eclipse.
Outside of this Ottawa school, parents just learning of the decision are awestruck.
Is this some April Fool's Day joke?
But it's no joke. From 2:11 to 4:35 p.m., the moon will butt in line between the sun and us here on Earth. With the brightness blocked by the moon, the fiery outer corona of the sun will be visible.
Shining and flaring, and it's especially active right now, which makes it especially special for us now.
Space.com's Elizabeth Howell says not only will looking at the dazzling sight damage the eyes, but because the retina is insensitive to pain, there won't be any warning. That danger, and because the risk will fall just as end of school day bells send kids bursting outdoors and onto their buses, Ottawa's biggest school board will close for the day.
I don't think it's necessary for schools to close during the eclipse.
Ottawa Carleton Public School Board trustee Lyra Evans says it's a missed opportunity to guide students through a rare, live, and dazzling scientific experience.
Instead of doing that, we're sending kids home and saying, I hope you don't look at the sun.
Though the controversy has cast its own shadow on the special day because of the rarity of total solar eclipses, it's one schools here won't have to deal with again until 2106. Stu Mills, CBC News, Ottawa.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga. Good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here. In Studio 15 at Portage and Main, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa, this is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Blowing snow warning for southern Manitoba, snowfall warning in for northern Manitoba. We'll also tell you about all of the school closures still to come. On the program this hour, a Winnipeg woman says he's paying thousands of dollars a month after a collision last summer that almost took his life. He says MPI is refusing to cover the costs of life-saving care. Details of that ahead. Also, the latest in our special series of stories produced by students through Sisler High School's Create program. First, though, we're going to hear from the owner of Caribbean Vibes in Winnipeg Square about her concerns with the mayor's plan to open Portage and Main and why she believes the underground walkway is worth saving. That's coming up next. First, though, to our CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Heather Wells joining us with a look at news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, experts say it's about time Manitoba adopted full-day kindergarten at all its schools. They say the move benefits children, their parents, and the economy. The Louis Riel School Division says it is considering switching to a full day of school for its youngest students starting in September. We're going to hear from an assistant professor of economics at the University of Manitoba on all of this. And Brandon University is closed today, but not because of a strike. The university's faculty association, in fact, late last night decided to call off a strike by its professors. It says the main priorities have been met and there's progress on other issues. But because of this winter snowstorm, Brandon University is closed today. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
That's Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And speaking of school closures, we have a whole bunch because of the weather. So take a listen here. Lord Selkirk School Division, Prairie Rose School Division, Red River Valley School Division, Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, Beautiful Plains School Division, the Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, Borderland School Division, as well as Seine River Division, all closed. Also closed today, Prairie Spirit School Division, Garden Valley School Division, Lakeshore School Division, Sunrise School Division, Evergreen School Division, the Brandon School Division, all schools are closed as well. And in the Interlake School Division, there was a staff event planned today, but of course it's been canceled because of the treacherous road conditions. I should also mention, in addition to the Brandon University closure, the Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna is also closed. Big list. You can find it on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Someone also with a big list of highway closures, roadway closures. Nolan Kaler, hello.
Good morning. You need an oxygen tank after all that. You need to put a mask on. And
if I had $1 for every school division I said.
You'd be a pretty wealthy person. That is for sure. Yeah, let's stay with those highways because you can imagine if buses aren't able to run out there in rural Manitoba, that's going to affect all motor vehicle traffic. Highway 1 remains closed at this hour from the Saskatchewan border all the way out to Austin, just west of Portage La Prairie. I'm also looking at Highway 10 north out of Brandon, all the way through Riding Mountain National Park and up through Dauphin. That's closed as well. We've got the Highway 5 from Roblin all the way down to the number 1 highway is also closed. Highway 16 from the Saskatchewan border to the number 1 highway also closed this morning. There's a whole list of highway closures. Manitoba 511 is your friend to find a complete list of those. Also have a couple of notes about the commute here in the city. We got a call from Helen just before the 7 o'clock news to let us know the lights are out at Roblin at Dieppe. That's because of a power outage that is affecting a few other intersections in that part of Tuxedo. So Roblin at Shaftesbury also experiencing light outages. Treat those intersections as a 4-way stop and really make sure you're stopping on those slick road conditions out there this morning. We also have at King Edward and Wellington, a collision has knocked over a traffic pole. The lights are still working, but you're going to want to be mindful for the crews that are on scene that are trying to repair that failed light standard. So that's what's happening on the commute here in the city of Winnipeg, where we are still experiencing a blowing snow advisory this morning, and that's in effect for much of southern Manitoba. Actually, you know what? I say that and I just refreshed it, and that warning has now ended. So there we go. We can still expect some strong winds here in the city of Winnipeg this morning, and a high of -10 for today. It's going to feel like -23 with the wind chill this morning. And over in Brandon, where the winds are still blowing strong, we've got a mix of sun and cloud expected for today. Feels like -28 out there with the wind chill. We'll see sunny skies later on, though, today, and a high of -11. In Thompson, where there is still a weather advisory in effect, and that is a snowfall warning. You can expect up to 4 centimeters for Thompson, which is right at the north sort of edge of that warning through sort of central Manitoba. There's a nice big red swath of warning That represents a lot of snowfall and strong winds as well, with a high of -14, currently -17 in Thompson, and that feels like -28 with the wind chill. If you see anything else out there on your commute as we continue through the show this morning, give us a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
16 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. The ongoing debate over whether Portage and Main should be open to pedestrians was reignited last week after Mayor Scott Gillingham said a new report revealed maintaining the underground walkway wasn't feasible. Some businesses in the downtown are worried about how this could impact them. Melanie Bastians owns Caribbean Vibes in Winnipeg Square's food court. She says many of her customers use the underground walkways at Portage and Main. She shared her concerns with the CBC's Rachel Fristel.
I have mixed feelings, I can't lie, because, some days I feel like if we close the concourse and cut off that side of Portage and Main to come over to this side, especially in the winter months, business is already going to take a hit, right? Like, it's a no-brainer. But at the same time, people walking up on top, knowing that we're down in the basement, are they going to come for lunch? Are they going to make that special effort? Are they going to continue to just, keep walking on the surface? So I have mixed feelings as a business owner. I feel that, if the city's saying, oh, it's going to cost a ton of money to fix the concourse and, that money will be better used somewhere else, hopefully that money will stay downtown. But again, I have mixed feelings. Some days I feel like, oh, it's really going to hurt our business. And then other days I feel like it's not going to make a massive difference. People who come down into the concourse, they are usually getting away from the weather, because in the summer months, people are already up on the surface, and like our business takes a massive hit in the summertime.
Okay. So you're saying in terms of the underground circular walkway that they plan on closing, you're saying you're worried that might impact the traffic that goes to your business, the foot traffic?
100%. 100%. Because all the customers that are coming from that side of Portage and Main, like from the other side where the Fairmont is and the Lombard is, right? They won't be able to cross over unless they go upstairs, make the effort to cross over, and then come down. So I personally think it would be a distraction, like they would just kind of go somewhere else. Like in the summertime, we go down about 30%, right, in business because people are outside. I think if we were to do this, we're going down like even more, like
no
all year.
Down there.
Exactly. All year round, like we'll be down at least 20%. And then in the summer, it'll be the 30 plus the 20. So we're looking at about a 50%. Like it's not something that, we are looking forward to. But honestly, I feel like this is our leadership right now. Like that's the mayor and, the council, and they're making these decisions based on whatever numbers and like money that they have to spend on fixing the downstairs. But in my opinion, like if we were to invest that money and fix it, right, and then that would help us to kind of continue our success down in the downtown core, because right now a lot of offices are working from home, right? A lot of people are staying home, so they're not even back 100% downtown. So if we keep chopping, then who knows, like maybe they'll start closing the stores downstairs, and then we'll just have to figure out what we're going to do, because we're closer to Graham and Main Street versus the Portage and Main entrance. So that's where I'm like, okay, is it going to make a massive difference? Yeah, the more I talk about it to people, I feel like, yes, it is going to make a massive difference. It's going to disrupt people who are, already used to, say, for example, parking in like on our side and then walking over, but they go underground, right? And especially in the winter months. And everybody knows, like, it's freezing cold in the winter months. Like, who wants to be up on the surface just to go outside to grab a quick bite to eat or, do their banking or whatever during lunch hour or their break? They're going to have to put on their coats and this and that, and then obviously make that effort to go outside and then come back inside just across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you want the city to fix the underground walkway, the circular walkway?
I believe if there's money to fix it, that they should do it. Even if they do it in phases.
Even at the price tag?
Yeah, I believe it's worth it. I believe it's worth it because if we can do all these other things and allocate money to all different areas of governing this city, right? Mm-hmm. Something like this, it will never go to waste because it's a walkway that will continue to get used. Like, it's from the day it's been created, it's been used, right? It really has. It even actually, the funny thing is, as a business owner that owns businesses across Canada, people talk about Portage and Main and how you can be underground and not have to be in the weather. Other cities, talk about, we should make an underground tunnel like Winnipeg so people can get around in the winter and not have to, be so cold and be in the climate. So I think it's worth it to fix it. Mm-hmm. I think that, once it's fixed, even if they do it in phases, like nobody's saying you should fix it all at once and spend all that money at the same time. But if you take time, phase it out and fix it up, I think that would be super beneficial.
Melanie Bastians, owner of Caribbean Vibes in Winnipeg Square, speaking with the CBC's Rachel Firstel. We're at 22 and a half minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm Faith Fundal, in for Marcy Marcusa. Nolan Kaler is our studio director. Maya McKillop, our technician today. Brad Lillies, our video producer, of course, for folks who are watching on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream as well. Hello, good morning, magandang umaga. Some good news to tell you about because that blowing snow advisory for much of southern Manitoba has ended. But it doesn't mean that the conditions have improved that well. We have many school closures to tell you about. So I'm going to go through the school division closures here. Lord Selkirk School Division has closed schools today, as well as the schools in the Prairie Rose School Division. Red River Valley School Division closing all schools. Staff are permitted to work from home, we're told. The Hanover School Division has also closed school to students and staff today, as well as the Southwest Horizon School Division. Buses there and classes cancelled. Buses also not running and schools closed in Beautiful Plains School Division, as well as in the Rolling River School Division. Fort LaBosse School Division has closed all schools, as well as Borderland School Division. Schools also closed in the Seine River Division. The Prairie Spirit School Division has also closed all schools, as well as the Garden Valley School Division. Lakeshore School Division, Sunrise School Division, and Evergreen School Division also have canceled classes today. We're told that Brandon School Division schools, all of them have also been closed because of the heavy snowfall. The division bus routes are also canceled. The division offices are closed, so take precautions for your safety. There was an Interlake School Division staff event that was planned today. As you can imagine, the road conditions and weather conditions aren't the best, so that's also been canceled today. Brandon University has canceled classes, and as well as the Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna. It's a very long list, so if you didn't hear all of it, visit our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, for a full list of all of the school closures. We also have not very good conditions on the number one, the Trans-Canada, from essentially Saskatchewan almost to Portage. So be prepared for not very good conditions. We'll give you an update on your commute here on the program. If you have any issues, call our commuter line, 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093.
Hi, I'm Leah.
And I'm Phelan. We're the hosts of the irreverent history podcast, The Secret Life of Canada.
We've covered everything from the history behind the iconic Bay blanket to why blackface is still a thing, and how all our histories can be traced back to our relationship with water.
Oh, you forgot about the controversial debate over which dessert is the most Canadian, the butter tart or the Nanaimo bar.
Yes, I did forget that. That was intense.
The Secret Life of Canada. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming up to 26 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Still to come, we're going to hear why Big Daddy Taz thinks growing up in a haunted house helped him to become a comedian, a mental health advocate, and a paranormal investigator. That story coming up in our next half hour of Information Radio. First, though, to our CBC National Sports Desk, and Scott Regard joining us now. Good morning.
Can you imagine growing up in a haunted house?
No, I don't.
Nobody would ever sleep.
I would.
Not in my house.
No,
anyhow.
and if I think it's haunted, I'll say out loud, "Hi, whoever you are."
It's just
Spirit.
a full disclosure.
Yeah.
I know you're here, and I'm afraid of you.
Exactly.
So let's just get that out of the way.
Please let me sleep. I'm not into it. Something that folks are for sure into, though, that Jets win last night.
Yeah. Another comeback after doing that against Carolina previously. They came back and beat the Buffalo Sabres 5-2 last night. Nice to see an assist from Cole Perfetti on a Morgan Barron goal in this game. Perfetti back in the lineup after getting scratched on Saturday, and that breaks a 15-game pointless streak for Perfetti, which sets a new career high for him in the process. It's been an up-and-down year for Cole Perfetti, Faith. He started out as the second-line center, and now he's finding himself on the fourth line as a winger, and his line mate Barron's taken notice.
I've been really impressed with the way he's handled everything. And he's still young, and I've been through that, and a lot of other guys have. It's a pretty normal part of the growing process, but he's been really positive through it all. It's not easy to kind of see your minutes disappear a little bit and just be scratched for even that one game. So just really proud of him.
Perfetti and the Jets now sit tied for first in the Central, and they have a chance to take the outright lead in their division should they have success tomorrow night at home against Seattle.
Scott, I was lucky because yesterday / last night afternoon, my partner was watching The Briar, and so got free play-by-play happening. Seemed like a fun game with 4 teams remaining unbeaten.
Yeah, that's right. 2 from Alberta, 1 from Manitoba, and the other from Saskatchewan. I'll talk more about Manitoba's fortunes in a moment, but heading up the home rink in Regina, Faith, is Mike McEwen. The first person, male or female, to skip 3 different provinces at a national championship. He's taking advantage of a Curling Canada rule brought in 2015 that allows 1 provincial import per rink. McEwen's hoping to do with Saskatchewan what he has not done skipping either Manitoba or Ontario at past Briars, and that's win the whole thing. So far, so good. He's taken down Kevin Cooey and Brad Gushu, who have won 9 national titles between them. Here's McEwen.
In this format, every win, especially against a seeded team like Kevin Cooey, it's big. There's not a lot of room for error in a 8-game kind of round robin situation. So the difference between finishing the 4th and 3rd is not very much. So great opening weekend.
Although Saskatchewan's considered the spiritual heartland of the sport, Faith, the province has not won a Canadian men's title since Rick Folk way back in 1980.
No kidding.
So sure, Mike McEwen's from Brandon. He grew up a Bombers fan and not a Riders fan, but if he finds a way to win this Bonspiel, Faith, don't be surprised if he's offered immediate honorary Saskatchewan citizenship. And before I head off, current Manitoba skips are doing pretty well. Brad Jacobs and his rink, they're undefeated after taking down both Ontario and Northern Ontario yesterday, although both those games needed extra ends. Matt Dunstone, meanwhile, he won his only game yesterday downing BC Dunstone. He is the lone Manitoba rink on the pebbled ice today. Yukon is the opponent, and that starts at 2 o'clock.
Really nice chatting with you, and happy Monday.
Yes. I am afraid no ghosts.
No ghosts, indeed. Scott Regard from your CBC National Sports Desk here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Our technician is May McKillop. Nolan Kaler, our studio director. Video producer, Brad Lillies. I already said my name right, so Faith Fundal here from Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come in our next half hour, including all those school closures after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's drifting in Winnipeg. The sky is clearing, though, and it is minus 13 right now. We're expecting the wind to start to ease up as well, a high today of minus 10. Well, the blowing snow advisory has now ended for southern Manitoba, and some highways have started reopening. Highways in the Carman area, for example, are once again open. However, major highways like the Trans-Canada are still closed. The number 1 is closed between the Saskatchewan border and the Austin area. Parts of highways 10, 16, 45, 2, and 3 are closed as well. More than a dozen school divisions have closed today, and you'll hear all about that with Faith right after this newscast. Meanwhile, shovels are getting a workout this morning, as are the people using them. Weather Center of Manitoba owner Justin Ortel was out in Brandon yesterday.
There's been some snowplows trying to clear the highways, but it's kind of a losing battle because it's just coming down so fast. We also had a pretty rare thing happen where we live. There was some thunder snow earlier in the day. It was just a very strong storm system.
Now, Brandon University is closed today, but not because of a strike. That university's faculty association says late last night it decided to call off the strike of its professors. It says the main priorities have been met. There is progress on other issues, the faculty association says. However, because of this snowstorm, Brandon University is closed for today. You can get the latest on the storm and all the closures on our website this morning, cbc.ca/Manitoba. A Winnipeg man says Manitoba Public Insurance is refusing to cover the costs of required equipment and prescriptions for his recovery after he was nearly killed in a crash last summer. Dan Levier was struck by an alleged drunk driver while he was on his motorcycle heading to work last June. He now needs a power wheelchair and other equipment to make his home accessible. But Levier says MPI won't cover it, and it won't cover the cost of his prescription medication, leaving him and his family paying thousands of dollars out of pocket.
A battle that my family and I shouldn't have to be fighting. I should be able to be focused just on rehabilitation. It takes up an inordinate part of our day, every day, and that shouldn't be.
MPI says benefit decisions are made based on information received by healthcare and medical experts, reviewed then by its team, and MPI says customers who disagree can appeal. You can hear more on this story coming up right here on Information Radio. The Manitoba Nurses Union says overcapacity problems at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital Intensive Care Unit are not sustainable. Last week, the hospital opened a 10-patient overflow unit because inpatient units were full or close to full. Union President Darlene Jackson says a spike in severe respiratory illnesses among children is taking a toll.
The pediatric intensive care unit is running at about double the census it normally runs at. We're seeing lots and lots of kids with viral illnesses who are still on a ventilator and needing lots and lots of care.
Jackson says nurses are being asked to do overtime or to work in units they're not trained to work in. Shared Health maintains the number of patients visiting the pediatric emergency department is normal for this time of year. Experts say it's about time Manitoba adopted full-day kindergarten for all its schools. They say the move benefits children, their parents, and the economy. Jonathan Jenner is an assistant professor of economics at the University of Manitoba. He says switching from a half day of kindergarten allows parents to work more.
Certainly more people would have freedom to work by virtue of the fact that you don't need to leave in the middle of the afternoon or even early afternoon to pick up kids.
Jenner says it's especially significant for women who generally have to do more childcare than men. Last week, the Louis Riel School Division said it is considering switching to a full-day kindergarten for all its students starting in September. Well, the Winnipeg Jets are finding ways to win.
Morgan Barron up by shoots. He scores! Yes, there was gas in that tank.
Morgan Barron in the third period on TSN as the Jets come from behind to beat the Buffalo Sabres 5-2 for the second game in a row. Winnipeg has gone into the third period trailing only to come back strong and win the game. Head coach Rick Bowness says his team has no quit.
There's a lot of fight in this group. There's a lot of pride in that group, and you got to be very proud of them.
The Jets now are on top in the Central Division, and they come home to face the Seattle Kraken tomorrow. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Hoping that we can kraken them down.
Good try.
I know it wasn't very good. All right.
It still made me laugh.
It's nearly acceptable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Main, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. May McKillop is on the controls today. Brad Lilly's our video producer. Nolan Kaler is our studio director. Nolan, do I talk about the school closures? Do you want to talk about the roads first? What should we do?
First of all, I'm going to say, as the studio director, I am cracking down on your pun usage from now on for the rest of the show.
Sometimes they're good, most times they're not.
Sometimes you got it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
It's cool. It happens.
As it was coming out of my mouth, it felt like 25% good. But it was too late because I already said it.
For my family is a saying, A for effort.
I have no regrets.
No, good for you. Good for you. You know what? Why don't we start with those school closures just because there is a whole raft of them to get through. And I'm going to add one to start to your list that I don't think you have. We got a call from teacher Sean in the Pine Creek School Division this morning out in Western Manitoba. So we can add that one to the list and a whole host of others you have in front of you.
Yes, and thanks very much for that phone call, Sean. Lord Selkirk School Division, Prairie Rose School Division, Red River Valley School Division, Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, Beautiful Plains School Division, Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, Borderland School Division, lots of school divisions here, Seine River, Prairie Spirit School Division, Garden Valley School Division, Lakeshore, Sunrise School Division, Evergreen School Division, Brandon School Division. All of those schools are closed because of not very good conditions, weather conditions and road conditions from earlier because of heavy snowfall. The Interlake School Division staff event has also been canceled today. And as you heard on the news with Heather Wells, Brandon University and Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna also is closed because of those conditions. If you're like me and have a hard time hearing all of those words, cbc.ca/Manitoba is the place to go, and you'll see the full list of school closures. And we're updating them as we get information. So there you go.
By my tally, I think you just read off 21 school-related closures because of the weather today. And we've got some good news to that end, both on the weather front and on the commute front. Let's start with the weather here. A blowing snow advisory just ended in the last half hour for southern Manitoba. So here in the city of Winnipeg, that doesn't mean that it's still not going to be strong winds, because they really are, gusting up to 70 kilometers an hour this morning here in the city. Minus 13 currently, but the wind chill makes it feel like minus 23 out there. We're looking for a high of minus 10 today. Skies clearing later on tonight. The wind dying down as well. It'll feel like a minus 30 with the wind chill overnight. Brandon, the winds also still blowing quite strongly. A mix of sun and cloud today and a high of minus 11. Still have that blowing snow risk until this afternoon. With the wind chill, it feels like minus 27 out there this morning. We'll see clearing skies and an overnight wind chill of minus 33, a wind chill value, I should say. Good morning to the folks in Dauphin in the Parkland. Tried to blend Dauphin and Parkland together. Did you see what I tried to do? Anyway, you've got snow ending this morning and blowing snow continuing into this afternoon. And you're looking at a current temperature of minus 13, which is about your forecast high, minus 26 with the wind chill. Skies clearing later on tonight, and the overnight low falling to minus 30 with the wind chill value. So Thompson, this is the weather warning we've still got in effect this morning. We've got a snowfall warning in effect for much of sort of central to northern Manitoba, and Thompson's sort of on the top end of that warning. You've got about 4 centimeters expected to fall, and strong winds out of the northeast, a high of minus 14. Feels like minus 29 out there with the wind chill, and we'll continue to see snow going into the overnight, and the wind chill values falling toward minus 34. Churchill, while you are cold this morning, you don't have any major snow concerns yet, but around noon today, there's a near blizzard that is expected to be developing with strong winds out of the northeast, and the wind chill is going to feel like minus 38 out there. That blizzard will be ending later on this evening, and then we'll see some light snow. The overnight low with the wind chill value falling in around that minus 38 region, so take care up in Churchill. Okay. All that is affecting the commute, as you can imagine. But we do have some highways that have reopened this morning. Sections of the Highway 13 from Carmen to Highway 2, Highway 14 in southern Manitoba in the Pembina Valley, also seeing sections open. And Highway 3 is seeing sections reopening this morning as well. But the Highway 1 from the Saskatchewan border till about Austin, still closed at this hour. Killarney till Highway 21 on the Highway 3 is closed. Highway 5 from Roblin all the way down to the number 1 highway is still closed, and the Highway 16 from the number 1 highway to the Saskatchewan border still closed. There's a whole list of highways. Check out Manitoba 511 for the latest updates. Here in the city of Winnipeg, still dealing with some outages of traffic signals, Roblin at Dieppe as well as Roblin at Shaftesbury this morning. So treat those as a 4-way stop and make sure you're fully stopped so you don't slide through any intersections. And collision has knocked over a traffic pole, King Edward at Wellington. Take care. The lights are still working, but crews are working to repair that, so watch out for them. If you see anything else out there on the commute, give us a call on the CBC commuter line at 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much.
You bet.
It's Nolan Kaler, our studio director here on the program. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Still to come, as you've been hearing on your CBC Winnipeg News, a Winnipeg man says he's paying thousands of dollars a month after a collision last summer that almost took his life. He says MPI is refusing to cover the costs of life-saving care. We'll speak with him in this half hour of the program. Stay tuned for that. First, though, the latest in our special series produced by a team of aspiring teenage filmmakers. They're all taking part in Create, an entertainment arts training program at Sisler High School. Today, students Van Chung Nung, Ethan Langit, and Tristan Legaspi shared the story of Big Daddy Taz. He's known across the country as a stand-up comic and mental health advocate. And it turns out, he says that growing up in a haunted house helped him to become not just those things, but also a paranormal investigator. Here now is his story.
I love to be challenged, and I want to know more about the unknown. It drives me, and I love making people laugh.
Hashtag selfies are not for safety.
When you're laughing, you can't be sad, and you can't be angry, and you can't be alone. We lived in a house that had a lot of paranormal activity. And I mean, when you're a kid, you just think it's just noises, and your mom and dad go, that's just the pipes in the wall, and blah, blah, blah. Doors would close and opening, lights would turn on and off, and we would hear footsteps outside our bedrooms, my sister and I. I knew something was weird, and there was a name for it, or, ghosts or paranormal. Growing up in a haunted house, for sure, played a big part on me wanting to be an investigator. For a couple reasons. One, to answer questions, to experience things. One of the other things that happened, and then a room, and it had like a furnace in it. And I walked by and I had a little shiver. And the reason I had a shiver was because for a majority of my childhood, I had a dream that I was pulled into that room. There was an old man there, and he wanted me to get in the furnace. And I was terrified, right? And then I'd be like, no. And as soon as he touched me, I'd wake up, right? And it happened over and over and over and over again. So my sister saw me have the shiver, right? And she goes, Tazzy, what's up? And I said, I used to have a dream that there was an old man that would try to get you to go into the furnace. And she said, I had that same dream. 4 or 5 minutes later, my son comes down, and he goes, oh, this room creeps me out, man. Because every time I stayed here, I had a dream that there was an old man. So 3 of us, right, years apart, had the same dream, but none of us talked about it to each other. We were sitting there going through pictures, and my sister goes, any of these pictures look familiar? And I looked down, and I just went, and I put my finger on it, I moved that one forward, and she goes, yeah, me too. My oldest son comes in, oh yeah, it was the guy, it was a picture of the guy who was behind the furnace. That was in our dreams. It was my great-grandfather. And then we started talking about the experience we had. I felt validated. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel as crazy.
Taz is definitely what they call a beacon, because whenever I have investigated with him, something happens.
Almost like I'm getting a hug, but it's somebody leaning on me.
I think he's just a sensitive type of person, like how mediums are. So spirits or energy seems to be drawn to him more than the average person.
No matter what's going on in your house, whether it's something physical or if it's something that's dealing with your mental health and you're hallucinating. If I can come in and help you get some closure, that's all that's important.
She looks at me and goes, Jesus can see you too. He knows you're fat.
I can make people feel better and take them away from their lives for a little bit as a comedian. And as an investigator, I can help people feel better about what they're experiencing. Yeah, I love that part, man. I really, really do.
It's comedian and paranormal investigator Big Daddy Taz. You also heard from Kelly Smith, lead investigator with a Winnipeg paranormal group. The story produced by Sisler Create students Van Chang Nung, Ethan Langit, and Tristan Legaspi. More on this story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or tune in to your CBC Winnipeg News at 6 o'clock tonight. We're at 14 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Some time to play some music. This is Kaya Kader with Taj Mahal. This is Fit On.
Sleep soundly, all your face is ghostly white. We are marching to your mansion in the night. Where's the money? Oh, I know you hide it well. In Haiti, they hid poison in your meals. Here it comes, that fearful feeling. Does it make your blood bang? Strange medicine, isn't it? Strange medicine, isn't it? Strange. Of cannons, guns, and blades. I am firing. I am not afraid of. I am not afraid of death. 20,000 armed against the colonists. Does it make your ears ring? Strange medicine, isn't it? Strange medicine, isn't it? Strange.
That's Kaya Kader with Taj Mahal and Fit On. We're at 12 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. Some school closures to tell you about. I'm going to list over the school divisions here. Lord Selkirk, Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Hanover, Southwest Horizon, Beautiful Plains, Rolling River, Fort LaBosse, Borderland, Seine River, Prairie Spirit, Garden Valley, Lakeshore, Sunrise, Evergreen, Brandon, and Pine Creek. All those school divisions have classes canceled and schools closed because of not very good weather conditions. If you missed all of those, you can head over to our website for a full list, cbc.ca/Manitoba. It will be updated as the morning progresses. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Faith Fundal. As you've been hearing on your CBC Winnipeg News, a Winnipeg couple says Manitoba Public Insurance is refusing to cover the costs of mobility aids and medication after one of them was nearly killed in a collision last summer. Last June, Dan Levier was driving his motorcycle down Talbot Avenue when police said an alleged drunk driver in a minivan cut him off. Levier was thrown from his bike and smashed into the van's windshield before landing meters away on the concrete. Levier spent 12 days in the intensive care unit and required several surgeries. He had multiple fractures, including his vertebrae and pelvis. Now he uses a wheelchair. The couple is spending thousands of dollars a month for his treatment and recovery that they say should be covered by MPI. Dan joins us now with his wife, Toby Levier. Hello, Dan, and hello, Toby.
Morning.
Dan, how much has this crash changed your life?
It's been the most difficult battle I've ever had to face in my life. And going through this, knowing that in the end, I'll never be the same as I was before.
What made it so challenging? What would you say has been the most challenging aspect of your life right now because of this?
Aside from recovering and rehabilitating from the physical injuries, is the mental stress that our battle with the Manitoba Public Insurance Corporation is causing us.
Toby, talk more about that. You, as both sitting on the sides but also experiencing this, how would you characterize how this is impacting Dan?
Well, it's causing, as he says, a lot of unnecessary stress. You know, it should be just that if a doctor says that these items are required and they're qualified for the jobs that they're doing, that should be respected by public insurance. And the fact is that I think we all think that we are covered with our insurance premiums should we ever need to use them. And the fact that we're finding out that possibly the legislation is written in a way that we will not be covered is shocking.
And let's talk about this because MPI says that it can't discuss individual cases, but says, quote, decisions about entitlement to Manitoba's personal injury protection plan benefits are made based on information received from various healthcare and medical experts, unquote. What has MPI told you about why it's not covering some of those costs that you're dealing with, and how does that make you feel?
Well, one thing they've said is that they're going to do a medical review of what our discharging doctors from Health Sciences Center have said. That is prescriptions for pain medications as a result of the injuries, and that it'll take a month or two before they review the entire file, and that even then they may or may not cover the medications. And until that time, well, we're paying for them out of pocket. No one should have to do that.
How much are we talking about here? Are we talking about a couple $100s a month, or is it many thousands of dollars a month?
Well, when you combine the rental of the wheelchair and the medications, as well as a bed that elevates with railings, you're in the neighborhood of a couple $1,000s a month.
Is that something you can afford?
No.
Pardon me?
Is that something that you can afford, Toby or Dan?
No,
we can't afford it. But we've been blessed with some donations, and that has helped us to be able to manage thus far. But without that, he would be left with very much reduced quality of life, unable to recover, unable to leave the home.
Toby, what have you been told about what kind of recovery you can expect as you continue rehabilitation and physiotherapy?
Well, nobody really knows. The fact that Dan survived all of these injuries is actually extraordinary. And so a lot of what we've been told has been it's going to be a long recovery. We don't know how much further he will be able to. We're very hopeful. We're working towards it, attending the physiotherapy twice a week and doing some home exercises. It's something that we are working to try to get back to as much of the normal as we can. But nobody really knows. But what we do know is current, and currently these are things that he needs.
Dan, if the people who are making decisions about your case were listening, what would you want them to hear from you?
I would want them to know that the way that their policy, which is available to the public, is written, it makes me believe that not only would we be reimbursed for things like medications and whatnot, it says that MPI will cover, and it does not mention a medical review that people that they hire or doctors that they have on staff will do. People don't know this, so things that discharging doctors and surgeons have said are subject to review, and these people would do that without ever having seen me, without ever having treated me, and I just think a policy that isn't mentioned is a hidden policy, and there has to be a clear reason as to why that isn't available to people or that people are aware of it.
Toby, it sounds like they may not believe you. Is that a fair characterization?
Oh, they've definitely been doing their best to minimize where our needs are. And, you know, the fact is that Dan was in hospital for 8 months. The first time that we signed off on having them look at Dan's medical records was back in July. And that agreement is valid for 2 years. So basically for 7 months, they could have been keeping up on what has been going on with Dan, and they didn't do that. And so, you know, it was time. They knew for sure for 6 weeks that he was going to be discharged, and now to be saying that they have to review and they have to, you know, see, and these anonymous people are making decisions of what is covered. It's not right. There needs to be transparency. We need to have options as Manitobans. If he's not being covered because of poorly written legislation, that needs to be addressed.
Toby, thanks for making time, and Dan as well. Do take good care.
Thank you.
Dan Levier fighting MPI to get the costs of his mobility aids and medication following a collision that almost took his life. Toby Levier is Dan's wife and caregiver. MPI says customers who disagree with decisions have appeal options available under the Automobile Injury Compensation Appeal Commission, whose decisions are binding. You can read more on this story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. To our CBC Winnipeg local news desk, Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the sun's out. The blowing snow advisory has ended for southern Manitoba. Still, many highways are closed, and more than a dozen school divisions have canceled class today. And the latest thing to say it's not running are courts in the Brandon area. Brandon courts will not be open today because of this storm. The Manitoba Nurses Union says overcapacity problems at Winnipeg Children's Hospital Intensive Care Unit aren't sustainable. The union president, Darlene Jackson, says a spike in severe respiratory illnesses among children is taking a toll. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. May McKillop is on the controls, and Nolan Kaler is here. I was thinking about the big list, but we'll get to that in our next half hour. How are the roads doing?
Yes, we will. One new thing to tell you about here in the city of Winnipeg on the Abenogi-Miikina, as you are getting onto Lagimodiere, there's a stalled truck blocking the eastbound left turn lane. Mike called to let us know a tow truck is working to get that cleared up, but that will add a delay as you are trying to get onto Lagimodiere off of the Abenogi-Miikina. Highway 1 remains closed from the Saskatchewan border all the way till Austin. A full list of your other highway closures coming up after World Report.
All right, thanks very much.
You bet.
Nolan Kaler. Brad Lillies is our video producer. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come in our next half hour. Stay tuned.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Nellie Furtado, and I'm bringing the party to the 2024 Juno Awards. Join me in Halifax for Canada's biggest night in music with performances by my friends, The Beaches, Maestro Fresh West, Charlotte Cardin, and me. It's a party you're never gonna forget. Promise, you know?
Don't miss the 2024 Juno Awards live from Halifax. Sunday, March 24th at 8 Eastern on CBC and CBC Gem.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Neighborhoods in Brampton, Ontario are seeing 25 people living in single-family houses as international students struggle to find a home. The city is cracking down on rooming houses, but needs other solutions fast. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. A member of Israel's wartime cabinet will meet with high-ranking U.S. officials in Washington today. Minister Benny Gantz will sit down with Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as other senior White House officials. The Biden administration has been pushing for a temporary ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Gantz's visit comes as the divide within the Israeli government widens. The CBC's Abby Kodassin has the latest from London.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants Hamas to provide a list of surviving hostages before he agrees to a deal. A Hamas official told the BBC it's impossible without a pause in fighting. Israeli media is reporting Netanyahu is being criticized by some within his own war cabinet for laying out a possible deal breaker. Former hostage negotiator Oliver McTurna is in touch with people involved in the talks.
You do need ceasefire. You do need confidence-building measures.
McTurna says Netanyahu's goals of destroying Hamas and freeing the hostages complicate matters.
Those are incompatible because you're saying to the people who are holding the hostages, look, our goal, our aim is to see your total demise.
For family members of hostages like Eyal Calderon, there is one priority:
to bring him back alive.
In Rafah, 14 members of the Abu Ansa family will never return, killed in an Israeli airstrike. Rania lost her husband and her twin babies. Naeem and Wissam were born just days after the war began. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than 2 million face starvation. And on Sunday, the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris publicly called on the Israeli government to allow more aid into Gaza.
And given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire.
Harris will meet with Israeli war cabinet official Benny Gantz. He's also Netanyahu's main political rival. The Biden administration has publicly criticized Netanyahu in recent weeks, calling out the indiscriminate bombing of Gaza. Gantz's trip could widen the rift. Abby Kodassin, CBC News, London.
Haiti has declared a state of emergency after a major prison break. Tires burn in the streets of Port-au-Prince during clashes with authorities. At least 12 people have died when gang members stormed the prison. About 4,000 inmates are believed to have escaped. The government is trying to restore order. An overnight curfew is now in place. Haiti has been plagued by gang violence since the assassination of the president in 2021. The armed groups control about 80% of the capital, and they say they are trying to oust the current leader. We could find out later this morning if Donald Trump could be kicked out of the presidential race in Colorado. The Supreme Court may release its decision today on whether that state can ban Trump from the ballot over his role in the Capitol attack. Katie Simpson has more from Washington.
The January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol is at the heart of this case. A Colorado court says because Donald Trump was part of what happened that day, he participated in an insurrection, which disqualifies him from holding elected office based on a Civil War-era amendment to the Constitution. Trump appealed the ruling all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which could weigh in today, as it is scheduled to release at least one decision. A ruling would provide clarity ahead of Super Tuesday, and Colorado is one of 15 states voting tomorrow. Though the court is largely expected to side with Trump, even the liberal justices, including Elena Kagan, seemed skeptical about banning Trump from election ballots.
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
Two other states, Maine and Illinois, are trying to follow Colorado's lead, but those efforts will likely end if the Supreme Court sides with Trump. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
France is about to become the first country to enshrine abortion rights in its constitution. President Emmanuel Macron has called for a special session of both houses of parliament at the Palais de Versailles today. It is expected they will give the motion the necessary 3/5 majority. Opinion polls suggest about 85% of the French public support the reform. The rights activists say the move is important, especially in light of the U.S. overturning Roe v. Wade 2 years ago.
Ce qui s'est passé aux États-Unis a déclenché finalement la nécessité pour nous d'inscrire ce droit dans la Constitution.
It shows women's rights will be taken away from them, she says. Nothing is a given forever. Some Catholic groups opposed to abortion are condemning today's action. They call it a defeat for women. NATO is holding an exercise today in its new expanded Nordic territory. More than 20,000 soldiers from 13 nations are joining military drills in Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Finland's military says this is the country's largest ever participation in a foreign exercise. Finland joined NATO last April, more than a year after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Sweden is finalizing its status as the 32nd member of the alliance. The current exercise runs through March 15. Canada, the U.S., France, and Germany are also taking part in the exercises. Heavy snow and high winds are battering Northern California. A major blizzard over the weekend dumped more than 2 meters of snow. Highways are closed, and tens of thousands of people are without power. Forecasters say the wild weather could ease up today. And here at home, a prairie snowstorm is also creating chaos. Saskatchewan is taking the brunt of it with dozens of flights canceled and highways closed. Yvette Brand reports.
Saskatoon had a blanket of snow half a meter deep in parts of the city by Sunday afternoon. Meteorologist Terry Lang is with Environment and Climate Change Canada.
There's anywhere between about 29 and 37 centimeters of snow that's fallen. We do tend to get more snow in the cities because the trees and the buildings and everything like that tend to trap the snow. So when it's blowing and snowing.
All that snow forced some school closures, snarled travel, and closed parts of the Trans-Canada. 30 flights were cancelled for safety due to snow, wind, and poor visibility. James Bogus is president and CEO of the Regina Airport Authority.
Weather is still very challenging. In fact, we're anticipating a lot more of the same, although currently, as we're speaking here in the afternoon on Sunday, conditions have lightened just a touch, enough for a couple of aircraft to depart. But we still see more cancellations forecast for later today. And if the plane doesn't arrive, that means the plane won't depart the next morning.
The storm hit Saskatchewan from Saskatoon to North Battleford. In Alberta, Calgary and Edmonton also had heavy snowfall with freezing rain in Winnipeg. Even as flurries tapered by late yesterday afternoon, meteorologists warned winds are expected to blow that deep snow into even bigger drifts through today. Yvette Bren, CBC News, Vancouver.
A senior in St. John's is raising the alarm about automatic renewal subscriptions. 92-year-old Lloyd Walker says he made a purchase from an American company that unknowingly entered him into a contract. And recently, Walker found out that he couldn't get out of it. As Ariana Kelland reports, the issue is prompting one organization to call for stronger consumer protection.
This is a copy of the invoice.
All Lloyd Walker wanted was a single coin, a gift for his great-granddaughter who turned 2.
I think right now there's about 12 coins here.
In July, Walker got a flyer in the mail from the Bradford Exchange. They were advertising a Queen's Jubilee coin for $69.99 plus shipping.
I'd say there's about $1,000 taken out of the account.
Walker wrote the company a letter in October, but the coins and withdrawals kept coming. In an email to CBC News, the Bradford Exchange says its advertising is clear. Pointing to one of its coin collections on its website, a spokesperson wrote that the ad indicates expressly that it is a collection and a subscription plan. Walker says it was not clear to him that he would be on the hook for items he didn't order himself. Laura Tamblin-Watts is CEO of CanAge, a national organization advocating for seniors.
Auto renewals
are notoriously difficult to extract yourself from. And a lot of the practices that we see border on predatory.
Tamlin Watts says her organization gets about a call per week about a variety of businesses offering automatic subscriptions.
We need much stronger consumer protections, and we need to make sure that companies are held to account.
For Walker, he says it's not about the money, it's about the principle, and a warning for others not to make the same mistake. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga. Good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. I'm in for Marcy Marcusa. I think I already said that. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Weather warnings for southern Manitoba have ended, the blowing snow advisory, but we still have snowfall advisories in effect for the northern parts. We'll update you on the forecast still to come. Also coming up, are solar panels contagious? The CBC's Blair Sanderson has a look at why rooftop solar systems spread through neighborhoods. First, though, as you've been hearing on your CBC Winnipeg News, all-day kindergarten, all upside. It's according to an academic who sees only positive outcomes to full days of school for kindergarten kids. We'll learn what the research says coming up here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. First, though, to our CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Heather Wells joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg man says Manitoba Public Insurance is refusing to cover the costs of required equipment and prescriptions for his recovery after he was nearly killed in a crash last summer. Dan Levier was struck by an alleged drunk driver while he was on his motorcycle heading to work last June. We're going to hear his story coming up. As well, the sun may be out, but in the western Manitoba area, they're still feeling lots of storm impacts. Brandon University is closed today because of all the snow. So is the Brandon court system. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, along with Darren Bernhard, Tony Nicolou, and Megan Ketchison in our newsroom. Our technician today is May McKillop, video producer Brad Lillies, and Nolan Kaler is our studio director. Good morning. It's been busy.
It certainly has been busy, and we'll get to those school closures, I would think, in a second here. But to start with, you can imagine that with all the blowing snow that we've been dealing with, we had a blowing snow advisory earlier on this morning in southern Manitoba that has now ended. But the road conditions are still quite tricky this morning. We still have highway closures on the Highway number 1 from that's going all the way up until Austin this morning. We had highway closure on the number 3 highway from Killarney up until Highway 21. Highway 5, all the way from the Saskatchewan border down to the Trans-Canada Highway is completely closed, as well as the Highway 16 from the Highway 1, again, all the way up to the Saskatchewan border. So even if highways aren't closed in the western part of the province this morning, they are still very, very tricky to navigate. And that goes for highways across the province, really, if I'm looking at the map this morning. So do take care out there on Manitoba highways. Here in the city, a couple of things to let you know about. The lights are out in Tuxedo, Roblin at Dieppe, as well as Roblin at Shaftesbury. Treat those as a 4-way stop. And you can imagine for all of the slippery conditions brought on by the snow and freezing rain, that is going to be really going to want to make sure you stop fully before entering the intersection. King Edward at Wellington, beware of crews repairing a knocked over light pole from earlier this morning. The lights are working, but crews are trying to right that pole, so to speak. Also, Abinogi-Mikina at La Jamodiere, there is a stalled truck blocking the eastbound left turn lane. The tow truck is on scene to fix that situation, but expect some delays if you're trying to turn onto the northbound La Jamodiere. So, mentioned the blowing snow, which is causing a lot of these problems, and the weather forecast, and that is not going to clear up this morning, but potentially by this afternoon, we'll have seen the end of the worst of the blowing snow. Minus 13 here in Winnipeg, looking for a high of minus 10. Feels like a minus 23 out there this morning, looking for a wind chill value minus 18 this afternoon. In Brandon, you're looking at minus 16 right now and strong winds. A mix of sun and cloud today and blowing snow until this afternoon. A high of minus 11. Wind chill values are going to make it feel like around minus 27 this morning. And up in Thompson, you're still dealing with a snowfall warning, up to 4 centimeters expected for today. And that's going to continue all the way into this evening. Minus 17 right now in Thompson with winds out of the northeast. And you can expect wind chill values in around that minus 29 range. And looking at a blizzard that's developing for the Churchill region as well later on this afternoon. Currently minus 37 with the wind chill up in Churchill. So that is what is going on out there for weather and on the commute. If you see anything that we haven't talked about yet in the final half hour of Information Radio, give us a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Now let's talk about the school closures.
Yes.
It's a pretty big list. The latest one is students at École Tuxedo Park. There will not be school today because of a power outage. The school is closed. I have a pretty big list of closures here, so take a listen. Lord Selkirk, Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon, Beautiful Plains, Rolling River, Fort LaBosse, Borderland, Seine River, Prairie Spirit School, Garden Valley, Lakeshore, Sunrise, Evergreen, and Brandon School Divisions all closed today, as well as Pine Creek School Division. Brandon University is closed. Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna is also closed. And the law courts are also closed today in Brandon because of not very good weather conditions and road conditions. The full list on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. 16 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, I'm Faith Fundal. Full-day kindergarten, but for a price to taxpayers. The Louis Riel School Division wants to roll out full-day kindergarten this fall. But to pay for it, trustees say they'll need to hike local school taxes by 7.5% in this year's budget. That includes 1% to pay for the full-day program in all of the division's 30 elementary schools. Here's LRSD trustee Pamela Kolochuk explaining why the board supports the idea.
Nobody wants to pay taxes, but if we want to live in an equitable society, we have to pay them. And the fact of the matter is that, especially coming out of the pandemic, there are so many children who have very high needs that aren't being met by the current services that the school divisions are able to provide just because of a lack of funding. And I think that especially with the younger kids, the more structure they have right now, because they didn't get that for so many years when we were, in that limbo and kind of going back and forth between being in lockdowns and not, a lot of those developmental skills and social skills and all of those things that kids would normally have, those are actually, a lot of them are far behind. So for me, if I have to pay a little bit more in my taxes to make sure that the kids are getting what they need, for me as a parent, I'm on board with that.
That is Louis Riel School Division trustee Pamela Kolochuk speaking to CBC earlier. Carrie McQuaig is also okay with the idea, saying that evidence shows there is no downside. She's Senior Policy Fellow at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. We've reached her this morning in Cadiz, Spain. Hello, Carrie.
Hi.
When you hear the trustee there talk about if we want to have an equitable society, we have to pay for it, what stands out for you when you look at the research about the impact that all-day kindergarten has on children?
Well, one of the things that we know, and it's really anchored in early brain development, is that about a third of students show up in grade 1 so far behind that they never catch up. So that by the time they enter school, it is both very difficult and very expensive to make up for the foundational skills they missed during their early years. And when kids don't catch up, that follows them throughout school. They're more likely not to graduate on time. It follows them in terms of their economic ability to earn. It also, and there's research on this, it also impacts their personal relationships. They are less likely to be in stable personal relationships. They are more likely to have trouble interacting socially to the point sometimes where it engages in criminal behavior. So it really is a case, part of equity is you pay me now or you pay me later. And that's what we're finding with full day kindergarten is children that get those good foundational skills are more likely to be ready for school and more likely to benefit from what school offers.
What about parents? I imagine there is also an impact on parents. What does the research say on that?
Well, parents will tell you that the nightmare years of early childhood is trying to get a child to a 2.5-hour kindergarten program in the middle of the day, or even when those programs are organized so that you go 3 days a week, 1 week, and 2 days a week the other week. When you're trying to match that up with any kind of childcare program, good luck. So what happens in that is that you get low rates of attendance. And in Manitoba, the attendance rates is under 90%. So that means 10% over 10% of your children are arriving at grade 1 with likely no early childhood experience, no group experience. So these kids are behind, and teachers have to spend a lot of time acclimatizing them to the school environment. And sometimes that takes place at the expense of other children who did arrive at school more ready.
Well, when you look around, I wonder, when you look around the world, what is the approach internationally when it comes to all-day kindergarten? Is that something that is a standard?
Oh, 5-year-old kindergartens, the norm is that children start school, start in a preschool environment when they're 3. I mean, and often children before that have attended some sort of child care program, and these programs are universal. They're without a cost to parents. And the OECD, of which Canada is a member, it's that international organization which looks at social and economic policy and its impact on populations, finds that in those regions where young children start school, for every year of school that they attend, the benefits are shown in terms of, again, graduation rates, lifetime earnings, and social and emotional behavior through childhood and into adulthood.
Let's talk about the impacts, because I know in Ontario French language schools this was something that's been done. What did you notice when it came to having all-day kindergarten?
So, I mean, it's interesting because in Ontario, which has had began to roll out full-day kindergarten in 2010, it was motivated by what we saw in the French language schools. Is they had long had full-day 4- and 5-year-old kindergarten, and Francophone students. Again, thinking about who Francophone students are, like they're a minority. Group, they were more likely to graduate. They did better on their literacy and numeracy test scores, and they were more likely to go on to post-secondary education. So that was something that really caught the attention of our premier at the time, and that's why it was rolled out province-wide. And when we look at it, Manitoba is only joined by Saskatchewan and Alberta in not having full-day kindergarten. And in fact, 50% of Canadian kids who are 4 years old get their early education in schools. So there's some catch-up that Manitoba has to do. And I guess if it's going to begin in that one school district, who's going to be able to show the evidence for the difference that it can make, I think that's incredible.
Who do you think needs to be convinced, and what do you think it would take for those folks to be convinced that this is something that needs to happen?
Well, I think there's two things. Look at your back end. Look at your standardized test scores, which usually happen around grade 3 and grade 6. And again, the showing isn't great for Manitoba. Those a third of children that entered grade 1 with difficulties are still having difficulties in grade 2 and in grade 2 and 3 and grade 6. In fact, many of them have fallen further behind, and you have one of the lower graduation rates across Canada. So, I mean, if you care about what your next generation is going to look like in terms of their ability to be able to really confront some, very difficult circumstances that we've left for them, we're going to need everybody at their best. We don't have a huge population. Our female population isn't having babies at great rates, and don't count on immigration because there is such a pull now for immigrants, and they're not coming to Canada in the numbers that we need to replace ourselves. So we are going to have labor shortages like we've never seen before, and what we need to ensure is that everybody that enters the labor force enters it with the skill set that they're going to need in order to not just survive in the new environment, but they are also going to have to thrive because they're going to have some pretty big problems to solve.
Really appreciate you making time today. Thank you, Carrie, and take good care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Carrie McQuaig is Senior Policy Fellow at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. We reached her this morning in Cadiz, Spain.
Commotion with Elamin Abdelmahmoud.
It's time to talk about funflation.
Crime Story.
You got one witness who can't be found.
This American Life with Ira Glass.
There are signs that read, see something, say something.
Radio Lab.
What is coming up? What is going wrong, actually?
The Sunday Magazine with Pia Chattopadhyay.
How does the last 24 plus hours complicate or change things?
Telling Stories. Sunday night on CBC Radio 1 and on the Listen app.
26 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And after an unseasonably warm winter, Winnipeg has been hit with a true winter storm. And a tune now by Winnipeg's Andrina Turan for these snowy times. This one's called Winter Nights. That's Andrina Turan with Winter Nights. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Hello as well to the folks watching on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Bunch of school division closures today because of the nasty weather that we've received over the past 24 or so hours. Lord Selkirk School Divisions has closed schools today. Schools in the Prairie Rose School Division also closed. The Red River Valley School Division, Hanover School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, and Beautiful Plains School Division have schools closed today and buses not running. As well, in the Rolling River School Division, Fort LaBosse School Division, Borderlands School Division, Seine River Division, Prairie Spirit School Division, Garden Valley School Division, Lakeshore School Division, Sunrise School Division, Evergreen School Division, and Brandon School Division schools. They are all closed today. Brandon University isn't running today because of, again, the weather. Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna is also closed, as well as the Pine Creek School Division. The Brandon Law Courts are also closed today, so no court today in Brandon. Make sure to check with your folks if you do have a scheduled court date. We're also being told that because of a power outage at École Tuxedo Park, classes are canceled today. So if you are hoping to go to school or get to École Tuxedo Park, it is closed today because of a power outage. That's in the Pembina Trails School Division. Lots of closures. If you missed some of them, you can visit our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, for a full list of all those closures. We'll have a full look at your weather in our next half hour after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's partly cloudy, still windy, strong from the southwest with gusts to 51. It's minus 13 right now in Winnipeg. We're headed to a high today of minus 10. Well, the sun is out, and the blowing snow advisory has ended for southern Manitoba. Still, many highways are closed, and as you just heard there, more than a dozen school divisions have canceled classes. Now, the heavy snow and all the blowing has people in Brandon working just to keep moving. The blizzard warning in Brandon was replaced with the blowing snow advisory. While that has just ended, people in Brandon still feeling the impact of the snow. Weather Center of Manitoba owner Justin Ortel was driving around Brandon last night.
We've helped, I'd say, about 4 people and kind of pushed four vehicles and get them going again after they've become stuck. There was a Brandon transit bus that actually got stuck on a service road kind of on the north hill of Brandon and almost slid into the ditch.
Environment Canada says conditions are improving and will continue to improve. That wind will ease up this afternoon. A Winnipeg woman says her family is paying thousands of dollars out of pocket to cover her husband's required equipment and medication after a motorcycle crash nearly killed him. Toby Levier says her husband needed life-saving surgery and spent more than 8 months in hospital after being hit by an alleged drunk driver. Now home, her husband needs a power wheelchair, specialized home equipment, and prescriptions after the crash left him unable to walk more than a short distance. Levier says Manitoba Public Insurance refuses to pay.
I feel let down. I also feel further victimized, to be honest with you. And I'm also just really in shock because we all pay our MPI premiums and we are told that we will be covered.
MPI says it has a team of independent medical professionals who review submitted documents. It says if a customer disagrees with its decisions, they can appeal. Respiratory illnesses are pushing Manitoba's Children's Hospital to its limit. Shared Health says the ICU at Children's was almost double its capacity at midnight Friday, and a 10-patient overflow unit had to be opened last week because inpatient units are over capacity. Darlene Jackson at the Manitoba Nurses Union says some nurses are being asked to pick up longer shifts and others are being mandated to extend their workday.
I talk to people who work 5 8-hour shifts that 4 of them have turned into 16-hour shifts. You cannot sustain that for a long period of time.
Jackson says it's a challenging time for nurses who still want to provide the best care possible. Experts say it's about time Manitoba adopted full-day kindergarten at all its schools. They say the move benefits the children, their parents, and the economy. Jonathan Jenner is an assistant professor of economics at the University of Manitoba. He says switching from a half-day kindergarten allows parents to work more.
Certainly more people would have freedom to work by virtue of the fact that you don't need to leave in the middle of the afternoon or even early afternoon to pick up kids.
Jenner says it's especially significant for women who generally have to do more childcare than men. Last week, Louis Riel School Division said it is considering switching to full-day kindergarten for all its students starting in September. Some business owners in Winnipeg Square worry about the impact not repairing the underground concourse at Portage and Main will have on businesses. Mayor Scott Gillingham last week says he wants to reopen Portage and Main to pedestrians by 2025. He also wants to close the concourse because repair costs would come in at $73 million, as well as causing years of traffic delays. Melanie Bastians owns Caribbean Vibes in Winnipeg Square, which connects to the walkway.
That's a lot of money to repair, but it's also going to give longevity, right? It's not like we're going to repair it and then it's not going to get used. Tons of people use it.
The mayor's Portage and Main plan still must be approved by Winnipeg City Council. You can find more news updated throughout the day, as well as the latest on highway conditions. Just head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Also in our newsroom today, Megan Ketchison, Darren Bernhardt, and Joni Nicolou working with us as well. Brad Lillies is our video producer today. May McKillop is on the controls. Nolan Kaler is our studio director. And it's been pretty busy looking at all the highways closures.
Yeah, Heather was just mentioning a few of them here, and I'll highlight some of the big ones this morning. The Highway 1 from the Saskatchewan border until about Austin, just west of Portage La Prairie, that's still closed at this hour. Also looking at Highway 5 from the Saskatchewan border all the way down to the Highway 1, so that is quite a large swath of highway as you're coming in that sort of central west part of the province. As well, Highway 16 from the Highway 1 is also closed to the Saskatchewan border. Even if it's not, highways aren't closed in western Manitoba today. Do take extra care as you are trying to traverse them. We'll let you know that there's still a power outage affecting lights in Tuxedo, specifically Roblin at Dieppe, as well as Roblin at Shaftesbury. Treat those intersections as a four-way stop. We're looking at blowing snow ending later on today here in Winnipeg and a high of -10. Currently feels like -13. Brandon also going to see some winds dying down, but blowing snow continuing throughout the day and a high of -11. Churchill still looking at a blizzard developing in around noon today, and the wind chill value in around -38. So batten down the hatches if you're in Churchill. Still a snowfall warning in effect for central Manitoba up till about Thompson. Expect about 4 centimeters to fall throughout the course of the day, and a high of -14 today in Thompson. We'll be back on Up to Speed later on today. People will be back on Up to Speed. You and I will not be back on Up to Speed,
we'll be
Faith,
sleeping.
but they'll be updating you on all the weather conditions as well as your commute back home.
Nice working with you.
You as well.
We'll talk to you again soon. I'm Faith Fundal in for Marcy Maracusa. She'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening. The Current is standing by. Take good care.